Elon Musk is now the largest stakeholder in Twitter. He bought 9.2%, which is just about $3 billion worth of the company. And I don't know if it means he can do anything, but he was just talking about on Twitter about free speech. He's on Twitter talking about the importance of free speech. Everybody was like, yo, start up a company. And Mike Cernovich was like, buy Twitter. And then Elon Musk was like, I'll buy a lot. A lot of people are saying Donald Trump should buy a stake in Twitter, but $3 billion, I think that's Trump's actual net worth, maybe a little bit less. So he couldn't buy 10%, but he could buy maybe one if you wanted to sink, a couple $100 million into it, perhaps. But this is big. Maybe free speech will be returning to the platform. Aside from that, we got a big story on Black Lives Matter. Apparently, they secretly purchased I think it was a $6 million mansion so they could film YouTube videos or something like that. And man, the more we uncover about how they were, misusing funds, the crazier things get. So we'll talk about all that. We got some crazy stories. Georgia has their own version of the parental rights and education bill. Of course, the left is calling it the Don't Say Gay bill, but this one's a little different. I'm surprised they haven't already come out and started, screaming about this one. We also have got now, I believe, if there's 25 states that are constitutional carry. If Florida moves forward with their special legislative session, we could have 26 states constitutional carry. Let's talk about all this stuff and a whole bunch of other stuff, I suppose. Joining us to discuss these issues is Amber Athey.
Hey, so glad to be here.
Who are you?
Shall I introduce myself?
Yes.
Great.
Take it away.
Yeah, so I'm the Washington editor for The Spectator, oldest magazine in the world. We started our U.S. edition about 3-4 years ago now. And as of a month ago, I was a radio co-host, but I think we'll get into the scenario there later on.
You got fired for
talking about Kamala Harris, everyone's favorite vice president.
Yeah.
And then I'm also a senior fellow at the Steamboat Institute. So
you made a joke.
I did make a joke. Never a good idea on Twitter, apparently.
They were looking for something. They you made an offensive joke about Kamala Harris.
I did, yeah, and used an old slogan that apparently no one knows anymore.
I'm sure everyone's like, I'm trying to tread carefully over, so we can save some of the story, but I'm sure everyone's like, whoa, what did she say? Was it really that
They're like,
bad?
oh my God, she said something really racist, didn't she?
No, considering the era that we're in, it was like totally not racist.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is looking back on it, I was at a trivia night with my friends when I sent the tweet that got me fired, and I remember going around the table asking about the initial tweet that I was going to send, if it was safe. And everyone was like, it's a little edgy. Maybe you should dial it down a little bit. So this was actually the pared down version of the tweet, and that still was too far.
So you're saying you're even more racist than they accused you of?
Right. So I'm now digging myself even deeper into the racism hole.
Well, we'll definitely talk about why you got fired.
It's great.
This is so stupid.
I feel like there's a lot of things that I won't say on Twitter, that I'm like, I have to save this for when I can speak it with my mouth, because it's the tone. If you don't have the tone to preserve the statement, they just look for the words, and then they give that word's a bad word. You can't do that one. I kept, especially talking about bodily functions. That's a big thing I try to say for the show. I don't want to put it in text.
Show. Thanks.
Yeah, you got it, Tim. What's up?
Yeah,
hey,
Ian
Lid.
is here. I'm also here in the corner. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. I'm excited for this evening. I always love my ladies, and I want to hear why she got fired.
Seamus is not here tonight.
He ditched us.
Yeah, he ditched us.
Slamus.
He was like, I'm going to hang out with my family. And we were like, dude, what?
How
Your
wholesome.
family?
Yeah.
Yeah, you think your family's more important than the
Yes.
world?
What is this, love or something?
Yeah, get out of here. No, but yeah, no Seamus tonight. No anybody else. But let's jump into it. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com. Become a member if you want to support our work. As a member, you'll get access to exclusive episodes of the Timcast IRL podcast Monday through Thursday at 8 p.m. We will have one of these episodes up tonight for you. Again, at did I say 8 p.m.? 11 p.m.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not 8 p.m.
At 11 p.m.
It's 11 p.m.
after the show. So make sure you sign up. And as a member, you're keeping our journalists employed, because this is how they get paid, basically. You guys sign up, and then they do work writing stories. And we greatly appreciate it. But don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel right now on YouTube. Share the show in any way possible if you really want to help us out. We have no paid marketing for the show. It's all organic growth. So we do rely on people just to be like, hey, I like the show, and share it. It really does help. Let's jump into this first story and talk about the world is changing so quickly.
Yep.
Elon Musk acquires 9.2% stake in Twitter. The world's richest man is now the social media giant's largest shareholder. My understanding is that he's also the largest. He has the largest vote. He's bigger than Vanguard, I think. Whatever
Wow.
other
BlackRock?
company.
Yeah, I thought it was BlackRock.
Is it BlackRock?
Yeah, I thought.
Maybe, yeah. They, Timcast.com writes, On Monday, a filing with the Securities and Exchange Commission revealed that Elon Musk has acquired a 9.2% stake in the social media giant. The move by Musk, reportedly the world's richest man, comes just weeks after he started criticizing the platform for its violations of free speech. His criticism was followed by a rumor that he might create a new competing platform similar to Twitter. The SEC filing shows that he purchased roughly 73.4 million shares in the company, making him the largest shareholder in Twitter. According to the Financial Times, Jack founder only holds 2.25% stake in Twitter. Musk has not spoken publicly about the acquisition, previously indicated he wanted to see dramatic changes on Twitter, of course. He has a bunch of tweets. He says, I'm giving serious thought to this. He was tweeting about free speech, saying what should be done. I don't know if he can do anything. He conducted a poll on Twitter asking his followers if they think Twitter rigorously adheres to the principles of free speech. He noted that the consequences of the online poll would be significant. 70% of the 2 million Twitter respondents said no. That's crazy. The first few months of new Twitter CEO Parag Agrawal's tenure have validated some concerns his leadership would reduce free expression. Since Agrawal took the position at Twitter, the site permabanned one of the accounts of Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene for allegedly violating its COVID-19 misinformation policy. And then, of course, she heavily criticized them. Recently, former New York Times reporter Alex Berenson sued Twitter over his ban in August 2020. Oh, wow. And then we also have an editor's note, full correction. Initial reporting said 9.7. There were a few outlets said 9.7. It was 9.2. The big question, ladies and gentlemen, does this matter? I feel very tired and bored by these conversations about Twitter and, I mean, you got fired over Twitter, so maybe it matters. No, maybe it doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, Twitter didn't fire me, so, I mean, technically it doesn't matter. But I don't know. We keep hearing these stories coming out about how, like, so-and-so starting a new social media company, and this is finally going to change things. And I just feel always disappointed. Like, I'm super black-pilled about just the general idea of social media, not just because of censorship reasons, but because of the effect that it's having on our societal interactions and the way kids are raised and all of these different things, social media addiction. I don't know how much power this actually gives Elon Musk. I've seen people smarter than I say that quite a lot, apparently. I hope that it changes. I guess I'm just generally pessimistic about the state of social media in general. And I don't even know if Twitter's really worth saving at this point, because you have to change not just the policies in terms of, the vaccine misinformation you weren't allowed to say for a while there, that if you had the vaccine that you could still get COVID, you could still spread COVID, and really stupid things like that. But there's also a lot of algorithmic issues in terms of how they decide what content gets promoted, what content gets shadow banned, and things like that. So there's so many things that need to change across the board to make this a better platform. And I mean, hopefully Elon Musk is the guy to help do it. But again, I don't have high hopes for anything regarding Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever.
Some people are saying that he does get substantial voting power and he could move to make himself a board member. And then as a board member, he can make some real changes.
He's charismatic too. Yeah, you need to be on the board. Well, maybe be on the board. So Vanguard owns 8.39%. At least this is from CNN. So he is the largest stakeholder now. The thing is, so you want to talk about changing the terms of service to make it a free speech network. You could base it out of like Connecticut, and then you have to adhere to state law, corporate law. But then the thing is, the NSA can come in and say, hey, we don't like that guy, shut his account down, and you're not allowed to tell anyone, here's a gag order. And then they have to, because they have the data. If you don't know who the people are and you don't have their data, the CIA can't come and take it from you. I use CIA and NSA interchangeably. It's crazy. I think really, honestly, forcing companies to change their terms of service is a big ask, and it feels very fascist to use political force to make a private company do something like that. I think that free speech on the internet is a different kind of free speech, and that it's more about the code. Because if it's spying on you and you don't know, you're not really free. If you're constantly being watched and sold out behind, or possibly.
Or a better question is, if the algorithms are hidden and people are being shadow banned and silenced without you knowing, then you're not in a fair system.
Yeah, you should know. The NSA came and they took that data, they shut that guy down. You should always know that stuff because you see it happen on the network.
Yeah, and a lot of times Twitter doesn't even tell people why they're being banned. I mean, they say sometimes you're being removed for this tweet and you have to delete it, otherwise you're not allowed, you have a suspension. But sometimes they don't really tell people, and then when inevitably, usually conservative and independent media go up in arms about what's going on, they say, oh, it was just a mistake. Somebody inaccurately flagged this tweet for violating terms of service. And so they're really not transparent about, even when people are violating things, what specific policy they're violating or which tweet was the violation. Sometimes they'll say that somebody was getting around a previous ban by creating new accounts, or that their email address has multiple accounts registered to it. And it all just seems like they're playing these games to try to get around actually enforcing their policies fairly across the board.
That's a good point. I think that if someone gets banned, if an account gets banned, that the ban reason should be on the blockchain for them for reference.
Yeah, but then what if they put bunk info on the blockchain? We'll take.
Then you should be able to appeal it, and then the appeal should be on the blockchain. You should be able to watch the process if it was.
That's true, because then you can see they lied. Because we check out this story. This is from a year ago. Twitter bans James O'Keefe of Project Veritas over fake account policy, suggesting that he was operating multiple accounts in an unsanctioned way. O'Keefe has already announced that he will sue the company for defamation, and that's legit. Because James was like, I didn't operate multiple accounts.
Yeah, and when you asked Twitter about this, because I've done this, I reached out to them about this exact issue, and I have a press contact at Twitter that like claims to be from conservative world. So they're always like, oh, well, we'll put you, the conservative media journalist, to reach out to this person because they can be trusted because they used to work for a Republican or whatever. It's all BS. But I reach out to them about these types of issues all the time, of them claiming that people got banned for these account violations. And when you ask for evidence of it, what they tell you is, oh, well, it's a personnel issue or it's a company policy issue and we can't talk anymore about it. And even with James himself and other people who have had this happen to them, they won't talk about it with them either. So how are you supposed to get any accountability when they keep doing this to people?
I understand.
I wonder where James is with this lawsuit. Because, I mean, they banned him and then outright made a statement about something he did that he didn't do.
Yeah, with no evidence.
And so he can easily just say to a judge, like, Your Honor, I didn't operate multiple accounts. They claimed I did. That's defamation. The judge is, I have to imagine he's going to be like, okay, let's go to discovery and easily determine whether or not he was or wasn't.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. The other problem with Twitter in particular is that they have this sort of woke corporate structure where they're hiring these kids who are on college campuses, like protesting against speakers and shutting people down. Those are the people that are getting hired at the big tech companies, and those are the ones that are actually in charge of enforcing the terms of service. So you already have the biased algorithms, and then you have an extra layer of bias with the people who are in charge of actually enforcing the policies. And so it's really no wonder that things like this happen. So if Elon's going to get in here, he has to basically go through the entire payroll of Twitter and try to root out some of these people who are acting as activists as opposed to people who are trying to fairly enforce terms of service.
That's another reason why blockchain administration would be good, because if you have a bunch of miscalculations of bans that weren't right, you'd be like, oh, it was on December 23rd. Who was adminning on December 23rd at 4 p.m.? It's all accountable. These corporations may want to hide that from the public because they want to protect their employees, and I get that to a point. But also the public, when it's in the commons, the public deserves, I believe, the control of the system and knowing who's screwing with the system. This is the commons. I think Elon also sees this as the commons.
I was listening to something about TikTok, and some young TikToker was like, oh yeah, Twitter's dumb. It's just for like politics. No one cares. And I think that's a fair assessment too. Many of us are on Twitter because it's a political social network. That's what it is. It's politics and journalism. Everything else is like, what's the point? You're going to go there and follow, Brad Pitt for whatever reason or whatever, celebrate. Not really. You're not. And that's why even the New York Times gets no interaction on any of their tweets. The real point of Twitter is to go on and be mean to people and emotionally destroy them.
Well,
the second reason is to talk about news, politics, and social
You can
issues.
also message people directly, which is pretty cool. Like I sent Jordan a message yesterday. I've never met him before, but
Peterson.
Yeah, Peterson.
Oh yeah, Jordan Peterson.
Like, I disagree with your third of your 40-second rules, dude. Your third one talks about always being honest. Sometimes laws are bad and you can't be honest about it. Anyway, we'll talk about that later.
But yeah, I wonder if Twitter just becomes irrelevant in 10 years.
It very well could. I mean, there's always this phrase that people throw out, right? Twitter's not real life. And it's 100% true. I mean, I'm like a Twitter obsessed fool, and I go out and I talk to my friends or my family back home about this stupid tweet I saw, and they have no idea what I'm talking about, or some manufactured controversy that left-wing activists on Twitter are all up in arms about. And again, even people who like consume Fox News or CNN incessantly don't really know what's going on Twitter unless they are actively on there for multiple hours a day.
But Twitter does have a huge impact on policy.
It does.
So it's almost like the forefront of thought in a lot of ways when it comes to politics and journalism. You'll get someone like David Hogg had a tweet, which is really important. It is. because seeing his internal monologue, his inner monologue, is important to understand that you shouldn't listen to his advice on anything.
Right.
When he tweeted, "You need what did he say? You need a license to kill deer. Why don't you need a license to kill humans?"
Yeah.
As if to imply you're allowed to, or like you could go to the government and be like, "I would like to kill people." Like, well, here's your license to kill, sir. Like, you can't kill
Did you
people.
fill out
Like, they're only extenuating circumstances. You're defending yourself, or you're in war or something. But normally, these activists and high-profile individuals would go through several filters before that message would actually get out. Now, because of Twitter, people are just thinking things and then tweeting it.
Right.
I take advantage of that and just tweet things that I know are intentionally ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then it's weird. You know what I think works for the left is that most of the leftists know my tweets tend to be nonsense, but they know their followers don't. So they're like, I can retweet this guy, and even though I know it's sarcasm or something or silliness or trolling, but everyone else take it seriously. But anyway, I digress. The point is, AOC talks about the Green New Deal. These politicians talk about policy positions and plans, and they manifest on Twitter. Antifa organizes rallies on Twitter. So sure, you can be one of these older guys on Fox News having no idea what's going on, and then one day you look out your window and there's a guy throwing a Molotov cocktail, at your building, and you're like, why is that happening? Well, look at Twitter. They were talking about it for the past 3 days.
There was a shift in, I don't know if it was 2013, 2012. All of a sudden, CNN started getting screenshots of tweets. Like I was from the pre-internet age, before social media, and then I would make a bunch of YouTube videos. And then all of a sudden, it was like, it's a big deal to get mentioned on TV. Then all of a sudden, the news is no longer on CNN. The news is on Twitter. CNN's referencing Twitter. Tweets. Yeah. They're referencing tweets on CNN.
Yeah, and isn't
That's
that
funny.
the problem is Twitter only has as much value and power as we assign to it, and media companies in particular have assigned a lot of value to what people say on Twitter, whether negative or positive. They will pull up random accounts with like 30 followers and be screenshotting their tweets and putting them on a primetime cable news program as if this is like a serious person with real thoughts that matter in the public square. And it's gotten to this point now where I think you're right that Twitter is setting a lot of policy. I mean, I would love to know, for example, where like the "Don't Say Gay" moniker came from. I wouldn't be surprised if that came from some left-wing Twitter account.
Some like 12-year-old.
Yeah. That's
the funniest thing about CNN putting tweets on TV is that it's probably some 12-year-old kid who, tweeted having no idea. This is actually a really important point. On Twitter, you don't know you're arguing with a 14-year-old. The dude who got Harry's razors to dump Daily Wire claims to have been in high school. I wouldn't doubt it. And so just think about how insane that is. That some high school kid desperate for attention or to like have an impact because it's it's trolling, right? You want to feel your pressure or your presence on the world. Sees a story, takes their account, and it'll be called like Bro Dude 54, and they tweet, "I think Joe Biden is the greatest president. Donald Trump was bad because he was racist." And then CNN's like, "Here's a tweet from someone who matters," and it's like it's just some 12-year-old kid who has no idea what he's talking about. I knew a dude who gave a fake interview to a local. There was a plane crash in Chicago. And this dude ran there afterwards and then told the journalists that he had seen it. He's like, "Oh, yeah. He's like, I was here when it happened." And they said, "What happened?" And he just made a story up because he wanted to be on TV. Now, he was an adult at the time. But imagine a 12-year-old. They'd be like, I don't know, where your parents. So you can be 12, go on Twitter, say Joe Biden's economic plan is destabilizing this country, and then a network will be like, we should put that tweet up and show people. When you're getting your opinions from a random assortment, it could be children who have no idea what they're talking about. And that's probably true a lot for the left because the Democrats tend to have a lot more younger people. So imagine just all of these conservatives on Twitter arguing with people, and it's like a 56-year-old guy arguing with a 14-year-old. Just don't do it.
Don't argue.
Don't.
Not in text.
It's never good. And I have to remind myself all the time if I send out a particularly, not even edgy, I don't really tweet edgy things, I don't think, but if I tweet something that gets a lot of engagement from people on the opposite side of the political spectrum, I'm so guilty of seeing some account say something like really stupid. And I'm like, I have to quote tweet them and dunk on them. And it's literally someone with an egg as their profile picture. And that's why like the addiction aspect of it is so crazy to me because it really does fire off like those receptors in your brain that make you want to engage constantly and scroll constantly. And even someone who is aware of it has that impulse. And imagine how bad that is for people who don't really understand what's happening.
So Elon Musk buys this big stake in Twitter, but I'm not entirely convinced that it matters because it's the cultural issues on in our society outside of Twitter matter more. So in your instance, Amber, you got fired because you tweeted a joke about Kamala Harris that was, you made fun of the way she dressed.
That's right.
And they called you racist on Twitter.
Yeah, so basically what happened was a month ago was the State of the Union, and Kamala was wearing this horrific brown suit, which everybody agreed that it was
We have a
ugly,
picture of it.
right? I don't think I'm the only one that thought it was bad. Saturday Night Live made fun of it, and there were people like photoshopping her to look like a UPS employee. And so I decided to throw out this tweet saying Kamala looks like a UPS employee. What can Brown do for you? Nothing good, apparently, because obviously she's ineffective at public policy and bad at her job. Well, a few days later, how this all actually shook out was, I don't know if you guys remember this, there were a bunch of protests at the University of North Texas because the Young Conservatives Club on campus had decided to invite this guy named Jeff Younger. And Jeff Younger is a dad whose son was taken away from him because the mom was convinced that the son was actually a daughter and wanted to transition him medically, and the dad was not about it. So Young Conservatives for Texas had this guy come to campus, and of course the SJWs on campus freaked out, had these crazy protests, and I got involved in this debate on Twitter. Again, never a good idea, but here we are. In the replies to Matt Walsh, actually, and there's this freelance reporter for the Daily Beast, Yahoo News, Rolling Stone, I think, named Stephen Monticelli. And I point to him as like the root cause of all of this. He took a screenshot of the Kamala tweet because he was mad at me for saying you can't chemically castrate kids, and sent it to all of his followers. And his followers decided that they were going to start emailing my employers to say that I was a racist and needed to be fired.
And where were you working?
So I was with The Spectator, WMAL, which was a radio station based in D.C. It's like the conservative talk radio station in D.C. And then I have a fellowship with the Steamboat Institute. The Spectator...
WMAL?
WMAL, and it's a part of Cumulus Media. That's like the corporation that owns a bunch of radio stations.
So
similar to
they're
Sinclair.
trash.
They're trash.
Yeah.
They're operated by a bunch of liberals who don't care about anything outside
But
of
it's
woke emails,
conservative
apparently.
radio?
They make all their money from conservative radio, but they don't actually believe in anything that their hosts are saying on air, is the long and short of it. The Spectator literally laughed at these emails they were getting because they thought they were so ridiculous. WMAL, a week later, calls me after I host the show on a Wednesday morning and tells me that my tweet was racist, that it violated their social media policy, and that they were terminating me effective immediately. No severance, nothing. I was done. I wasn't going back on the show the next day. They didn't inform anybody else on the show that I was hosting, so they were like SOL. They didn't even have a host for the next morning. They had to have somebody else fill in. They didn't tell the WMAL program director. It was a vice president and the VP of HR. I have the termination letter and everything that confirms everything that I'm telling you guys.
The people you worked with didn't stand up for you and be like, I'm not going to do it?
They tried. I will say that there was a lot of internal maneuvering over the past month, which is why I've waited so long to go public with the story, because I wanted to see if Cumulus and WMAL would do the right thing. A lot of the hosts are on contract, so they can't really just walk out without facing pretty heavy financial consequences, is my understanding. I don't want to throw them under the bus because they have been speaking out on my behalf publicly since I've talked about this morning, but I understand your perspective.
Yeah, I wish people were more willing to just stand up. Consequences be damned. There's so many people on the left that are willing to risk prison time, burning down police stations and doing the most insane things, and conservatives won't even risk a contract violation. It's like, oh no, a contract violation, you're gonna have to go into arbitration. Those companies don't want to spend money on lawyers. Yeah. So if you were like, I'm not going to do the show, and they're like, well, you'll be in breach of contract, and it's like, okay, spend $5 retaining your lawyer because I refuse to do a show one day, and let's see how much money you got to waste before you get me to agree a month later. I'll tell you this, it just pisses me off. They'd come to me and they'd say, you're in breach of contract, we're going to sue you. I say, okay, I'm going to wait you out, however long it takes you to put your lawyers on retainer to file, and then you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to let you win. Then I'm going to make you sink $20,000 into legal fees, then I'll come back. How does that sound? Or you can just say, we're not going to fire someone over a tweet. People just aren't willing to even put a little bit of pressure on their companies.
Yeah, and I will say, I was allowed to go on Dan Bongino's show today. And Dan Bongino's show is nationally syndicated. One of the radio stations that hosts his program from 12 to 3 p.m. every day, WMAL. So I got to go on the radio station that fired me and tell all of their listeners exactly what the company did to me. And Dan Bongino was actually kind enough to offer me a bi-weekly segment on the show as well. So he's putting his money where his mouth is. I mean, he also... He's a good dude. And he's gotten into it with Cumulus before over their vaccine mandate. So this isn't the first time. Like, he hates them, rightfully. Totally understandable. If you've seen their, like, internal... And I can't go into too much because of the confidentiality agreement. I don't think they'll sue me, but I would rather not risk it. They have a lot of stuff on their internal company forums that is just horrendous. I mean, if the listeners knew... the things that they were promoting internally, whether it's some of the trainings that they do or some of the financial bonuses they offer people for doing certain things, they would be absolutely horrified that they are giving their listenership to this company.
Sounds like Project Veritas might be picking something up from there.
Yeah, I would love to see James O'Keefe do a little digging on that.
I'm not surprised that these corporations don't care about anything.
Yeah.
I'm also not surprised there are a lot of people who are like, well, there's nothing I can do about it because, I'm under contract. And I'm also not surprised that Dan Bongino is like, I don't care, let's do it. Because Dan is doing a lot to push back. He's invested in Rumble.
Yeah.
They've got something called Parallel Economy. Do you guys know about this?
Only by name.
Alternative financial transaction service. So
Cool.
they're building, I'm a big proponent of, supporter of, and working towards parallel systems, right? For a while, I used to talk about how it was dangerous. And this was years ago. I was like, if they keep banning people this way, if financial institutions keep doing this, you're going to make a parallel economy. You do not want that. Now we're here, and it's like, okay, if that's what they wanted, we're past it. You've got to do it. So parallel economy, if you could do a subscription service and not have to worry about being banned by someone tweeting, oh, but they're racist or whatever. This company's going to be like, we don't care. And Dan Bongino, I believe he's an investor. I'm not entirely sure, but I know he's involved. So, man, at least we have people like him doing stuff. That's something.
Yeah. I mean, if I were a host on that station still, I would be terrified about what could happen to me because you can't do political commentary if you can't make fun of a politician's outfit. Like, that is the most basic of things that you should be allowed to do. How are you supposed to go on the air and tell the listeners that you're committed to truth if you work for a company that censors you, if you get anywhere close to the edge, which I don't even think this was. To me, this is like one of the most clear-cut cases of just dishonest, bad faith, cancel culture bullshit. But that's how it is nowadays. Like, you can't say anything, and you have to be so anodyne and boring that it is literally destroying political commentary.
I think people have been too complacent with corporations. They've gone too far. They're not people.
Yeah.
They need to be. That whole system needs to be shattered and
it's
regrown.
Cultural, man.
It's beyond. It's an aberration now. It needs to be changed.
How many ballpark? How many people worked directly or indirectly with you?
With me on the show, maybe 5.
If those 5 people were like, we're all sick today, they'd be like, hire Amber back, apologize to her.
Yeah.
Instead, they're just like, well, I'm not gonna do anything. That's the thing that people need to understand. It's not even about, stepping on the toes and trying to, cause some pain to the company who's playing BS. It's just literally being like, oh, we must have all got sick at the same time. I mean, we all work together, so it makes sense. Yeah, we're going to be at, what's our sick, how much sick time do we have? 2 weeks? Yeah. Oh, I think we're going to be sick for a little while.
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, okay, we get it. Because what are they really mad about? You tweeted, what can Brown do for you? The UPS slogan. Jeez. They don't care about that.
No.
It's just...
They are trying to avoid reputational damage, and they made a huge miscalculation because they thought that firing me was the easy thing to do. This would get the bad actors off of their back. They'd stop getting emails sent to corporate, and they could go and tell the CEO or whoever, see, we took care of this problem. What they thought was going to happen was that I was going to sit down and shut the hell up and not tell anybody because I'd be so embarrassed. Well, the opposite is true. I'm pissed off. I think it's horrible, and I'm going to drag them to the ends of the earth to destroy their reputation as publicly and as loudly as I possibly can, and I'm going to get as many other conservatives and independent thinkers on my side to also try to destroy their reputation because that's all I know how to do at this point.
I wouldn't call it destroying. I would say be honest about their
sure,
reputation.
expose
the truth.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been committed to my entire career. So I don't know like what they thought that I was or who I was, but that's not it.
Corporate media is such a joke. It's like you need your media run through a filter of an authoritarian corporation. Hell no. It's individual.
Yeah.
Now, people can go out there with the camera and get it done, man. You don't need these stupid companies.
Yeah, this is why I think we're particularly lucky with Timcast in that we have no external influences, no beneficiaries, no investors. The only person that could ever be like, the buck stops with me. So, and I'm kind of hot-headed and, people call me arrogant and all that stuff. If somebody got fired, I wouldn't be like, hey, we don't want to step on any toes here because they're a big company. We advertise. I'm gonna be like, let's take the emails, let's throw them down on the table, take pictures of them, post them on the internet, put our feet up, and crack a cigar and tell everybody exactly what happened.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way, and that was my instinct as soon as this happened. I talked to a lot of people about it. I spent a month letting people internally try to do what they could do. I explored some legal options. I was an at-will employee, so there's not a whole lot you can do in that situation. And their social media policy, let me see if I can bring it up, because this is kind of interesting. I think it's pretty obvious that this is a CYA policy, and it exists so that they can fire people for any reason whatsoever.
It's usually the way they have it. One thing I'll say, too, as you're pulling it up, this is what the right needs to understand about activism. When I worked for nonprofits, they would do postcarding, where these nonprofit organizations would hire people and have them fill out postcards. They would have them go outside and ask people to just sign their name to a postcard. Then they would take thousands and put them all in the mailbox. And then one day a member of Congress just like, here you go. And they wheelbarrow in all the postcards and just leave them in their room. And they're like, wow, look at all these people who are angry. I better act this way. Or I better react to this. You get 50 people who send emails to a cereal company, and the cereal company is like, oh no, everybody wants us to do something, so Lucky Charms better go woke. And in this instance, the woke started sending emails to WMAL, right? Mm-hmm. And then they say, oh, just fire her, it'll make it all go away.
Yeah.
Because they know, or they're hoping that conservatives won't email them complaining that they fired someone over a Twitter joke. Because the left is just chaotic and out for some kind of... Yeah, I don't know. The crazy thing is 4chan had this reputation for the longest time of, don't mess with 4chan. They'll come after you. Now, I guess, for whatever reason, you don't really hear a lot about that. It's the left who has become the hornet's nest. Remember it was Colbert talking about Anonymous? And he was talking about this company called, I think it was what was it called? HB Gary? Was that what it was?
I don't know.
No, it was something federal. I don't know. Maybe it was HB Gary. But Colbert was talking about this security company that went after Anonymous, and he said that's like saying, they wanted to stick their dick in a hornet's nest and then kick it or something like that. It used to be 4chan and the libertarian and the right that were the hornet's nest to be feared, not to screw with. Now it's Antifa on the left because the corporations are terrified of them, and the right doesn't do anything.
What do they call it? Brigading? Is that what it's called? When you get a bunch of people to go do something? I kind of realized the power of that 2007, I think. Obama was running for office. I was like, oh, we can get this guy elected. Let's all vote for Obama. Everyone listening, vote for Obama. I would just tell people, vote for Obama.
Yeah.
And they did it. And then I was like, we could all pull our money out of the bank at the same moment on the same day. And I was like, I think it might be, is that illegal to call for that? No, I don't think so. So mad power. And then I started to get scared, if I did that and crashed the economy, that could be very bad.
Yeah.
The power of brigading is real.
And there are a lot of sort of more formal left-wing advocacy organizations like Sleeping Giants that were formed on social media and do these harassment campaigns. Media Matters is sort of infamous for going after people's advertisers. They basically managed to bully all of Tucker Carlson's advertisers out of being on his show, for example, because they just, for them, it's not obviously not about, oh, we really care about racism and sexism and homophobia and all that. They care about just trying to shut up anybody who disagrees with them politically. That's the real goal, because they use these things so dishonestly. But I have the social media policy here. So the only thing that I could think of that this potentially violated was employees must not use internet venues in a manner that may cause public discredit to employee or to the company. So like I said, it's a CYA. It's if you do anything we don't like, whether on air or off air, we can fire you under this policy, and that will be considered firing for cause. We don't owe you any severance. You lose all of your union benefits, and you're screwed. And then they probably assume that people will be scared by the confidentiality confidentiality aspect of this handbook and not talk about it. But again, that wasn't going to happen.
But your tweet was so just not even. I mean, like, what if you called Kamala a disgusting pig? You know.
That's a good question.
I think you would have been fine.
I think,
yeah.
I think I probably would have been okay.
It's the word brown.
Yeah.
The people have become
So
that sensitive
dumb.
to this insanity.
Yeah.
That you talking about colors. Like if you use red, they wouldn't have done anything about it. It's the color brown, black, white. The shades black and white are very sensitive words. Yellow's another one.
You can't do that.
That's okay.
Yeah.
You can. You just.
Well,
that's why I use tone.
But
when
we
I try
can
to
take a
talk
box of Lucky Charms. Oh, the camera's not
Oh
on.
no.
Yes.
sorry.
We can put a box of Lucky Charms next to Seamus, or Seamus chose to do it, and someone sent it to him, and everyone laughed, and it's funny that he's like, you know, I'm Irish, so there's leprechauns or whatever.
Do you guys think the
But-
corporation should have the right to do that? What they did to you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes, it's a cultural problem. Companies should be able to, for the most part, fire people for any reason. I say for the most part. There's probably certain circumstances where like retaliation after you abuse someone physically and things like that. But I don't know why you'd want to work there. So maybe we should just let companies sever with people if they want to. There's probably a longer conversation there. But the issue is the culture.
Yeah.
A company shouldn't want to do that. And not only that, if a company says, well, you put up a mean tweet about the brown vice president, so we're firing you, and then if the other 5 people were like, we quit, even that among the employees would prevent the corporation.
Oh yeah, you could build organization within the company's employees to resist this kind of behavior, but 20th century corporations, which is what they are right now, aren't equipped to handle 21st century media because they're getting bombarded through a central service with all these 50, 100 people sending emails to this one guy or this small group of people, and they're overloading their helpline.
I think what's interesting in my case is the backlash wasn't that big. I mean, I've had people try to cancel me before, and this was relatively minor in comparison. It was like maybe 10 people sent an email, I would guess. It wasn't this bombardment that would really lead any honest, like, real leader to say, this is too much, like, this girl's got to go, she's causing us a huge headache. And when you have this policy that talks about how you can't discredit the company, like, from my perspective, again, this is a huge miscalculation because they are now being publicly discredited 5, 10, 50 times more than they would have otherwise because of this decision to fire me. Exactly, it is good.
I have to say this. I honestly don't care about Kamala Harris's outfit being all brown. It is weird. So I actually have I have other clothes. This may be shocking to many people, but I have a brown button up, and then I have like brown t-shirts. And one day I was like, let's see, like, what should I wear when I go skate or go out? And then I looked at them both, and I'm like, man, I would totally look like I worked for UPS if I wore that. So I'm definitely not gonna.
So you're a racist too.
Yeah.
The problem with Kamala is her jacket's the same color as the desk. That's
And
a
the
big
chair.
mistake. So it'd be like if you had your
And the
shirt was the
chair.
same
Yeah.
color as the wall behind you, it'd look crazy.
It's not
Kamala-
a great shade of brown in my opinion, but
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like poop brown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not
Like,
good.
what was she thinking?
it does look like the poop emoji.
Like shiny.
Yeah. What can brown do for you? Well, for Kamala Harris, her outfit.
Not a lot.
And that is like the
Absolutely nothing.
UPS color too.
Yeah, it
you
is.
know.
I mean, people have
Thereabout.
put the UPS logo on her little
Yeah, it was a meme.
jacket.
I
Yeah, it was a
remember.
meme. And it was dead on.
Yeah.
Dead on.
Well, people just gotta, there needs to be conservative activist organizations, and I hate saying the word conservative because that's not even the issue. Just not woke.
Yeah.
There needs to be not woke.
Not stupid.
Yeah, civil libertarian, I think is the right word that encompasses conservatives and moderates. Civil libertarian, like there's a tweet going around from some dude, and he's like, cancel culture has no place in America. Then it's like I think Defiant L's posted this, and the next tweet is him saying Disney should be
Nick
stripped.
Adams.
And I'm like, that's not cancel culture.
Not at all.
Right.
Yeah.
People think that not spending your money with a certain business is cancel culture now. Like, that's the left's new talking point, is that if you do anything, like, they boycott people all the time, right? But and then when conservatives do it, they're like, no, you're doing the cancel culture now. You're doing the cancel culture.
Those are boycotts and sanctions are not the same thing.
Cancel
Sanctions
culture
are when you're fired from a job for saying something or banned from Twitter. That's a sanction.
Mm-hmm.
Cancel culture is digging up messages and taking them out of context. Taking messages out of context. It's when you get someone fired or harassed for something that is not genuine, for the most part. Saying Disney does awful things, so we shouldn't provide them with any services and give them the boot, is just being like, this is a bad company who literally does things we don't like.
That's the whole point of having a free market capitalist system, is that you're supposed to be able to spend your dollars where you want to and be able to make those sort of more moral decisions about your finances. And then I'd also add that I think cancel culture is when the punishment doesn't fit the crime. So if you're trying to get someone fired for a tweet, that is an unjust consequence for something that they supposedly did wrong.
Well, then what's my question to you then? Do you think the corporation should be able to fire people like that, like whenever they want?
I mean, if I signed an at-will contract, so they're within their right to do so.
I spend a lot of time on social media and thinking, like, should social media companies have the ability to ban whoever they want at any time? And I usually land on because I think ultimately what we're going to head towards is near infinite amounts of social media networks all working in parallel with different terms of service. All the different networks will have different terms, and all the code will be similar, so they'll all be interoperating. I just don't see that with corporations at the moment. I don't know how to stop these authoritarians from just destroying someone's livelihood at will.
Did you guys see that story about, I think Lori Lightfoot is going to give away, was it 50,000 gas cards?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about, that's kind of funny. Like, what do you call it when it's communism, but it's not for everyone? It's only for a randomly selected lottery. And I was like, is that Demar communism?
Yeah, something like that.
Like only 10% get to bask in the communism.
Randomism. Welcome to our new government.
Well,
Hope you roll a 1.
Demarchy is random government. People are randomly chosen to rule. That's why I was like, Demar communism.
Yeah.
But anyway, I bring this up because I'm thinking, like, you know what we should do for Timcast is just whenever there's like layoffs, we'll just have everyone will have to hold a potato, and then whoever's holding the potato when the buzzer goes off is fired. And so everyone will constantly be throwing it. But like, if you throw it and no one catches it, it's yours. And we got cameras. We'll know. So you got to get someone else to catch it. And then everyone will be throwing it to each other. And then you never know. And then we'll just like never put the buzzer on for like a week. So everyone's just walking around throwing a potato around. That's
slide into his pocket when he doesn't know.
The appropriate way to do
the
corporate
potato the
learning.
whole time.
All right, let's talk about this. Speaking of cancel culture, let's talk about people who should be canceled. From the Daily Mail. Black Lives Matter secretly used $6 million in donations to buy luxurious 6,500 square foot mansion with 7 bedrooms and parking for 20 cars in Southern California in 2020, where the leaders have filmed YouTube videos. Absolutely amazing. Emails show the firm wanted to keep the purchase a secret, despite filming a video on the home's patio in May. The news comes as the foundation faces federal scrutiny for alleged misuse of donation funds, and comes on the heels of criticism of co-founder Patrisse Cullors. Cullors, 38, came under fire last year for a slew of high-profile property purchases. She resigned after facing backlash from critics and supporters. And I'm willing to bet that if you go to any Democrat, activist, or left-wing person and say, hey, this is bad, right? They'll go, well, I mean, but so what? I mean, well, this is not Black Lives Matter. And it's just, you can point out the money's missing, that their address isn't real, that they bought mansions. This lady's got multiple homes, and they'll still just be like, but. Yeah. You see, I don't know if there's an equivalent. Is there an equivalent to like BLM on the right? Not really.
No.
Nowhere for
Black
you.
Lives Matter is an aberration on society, and it's very unique. It's like a communist
aberration.
movement.
It's a scam.
That's a bold statement, Ian.
Intentionally seeded. I mean, whether or not the communists wanted to create it, I don't think so. But it's very it's been infiltrated.
Well, and the person who's done a lot of good reporting on this, because I just want to give him a shout out. I used to work with him, Andrew Kerr. He's at, I believe, the Washington Examiner now. And he was the one who broke this story about last year, Black Lives Matter has this like $60 million war chest, essentially. And he found out that there was no one in charge of it for 8 months. Like, nobody knew where this money was, what they were doing with it, who actually had access to it. And then Patrisse Cullors, who had resigned over buying all of these homes and the backlash that accompanied that, claimed that there were 2 other people who were supposed to be in charge of BLM's finances. And then they found out that those 2 people had never even officially taken over that position, and they still haven't provided any answers. They've tried to delay the reporting of their previous fiscal year finances. And just across the board, there's all this corruption that's going on in BLM. And like, to me, this is just the latest example of how irresponsible they've been with all of this money. I think a lot of people probably donate to BLM not to look racist, honestly. I don't think they actually know like the ins and outs of the organization.
It's a cult.
I support the concept that Black lives do matter and white lives do matter, and we should focus on class issues. But when I say it's an aberration, I'm talking about the corporate structure that's taking money and buying houses.
Yeah.
And the people like this should all be transparent, and it should all be on some sort of blockchain. I mean, it's a little
man.
it's a little early for blockchain.
Look at this house.
Ooh, that's a nice
This
house.
Conyers, Georgia house.
who's
Ooh.
buying this stuff. Who are these top brass anyway? These people.
That's an awesome house right there.
It's beautiful,
I
yeah.
would love to
I'd
buy
totally
something like
go for
that.
it.
She has, this Patrice Colors, excellent taste in homes. It's just absolutely amazing.
Impeccable.
Wow.
Look at this one. Even this one's just so nice. It's got a little
a nice
this-
backyard,
They
yeah.
made like a little barn. It's got 2 stories. Wow.
It's nice.
Impeccable. This. If I was going to be running an international nonprofit that was taking in money with no accountability that I could then use to my own discretion, I would totally buy these exact same houses.
These are nice houses.
Yeah.
You might even be able to
very
write
nice.
them off.
Maybe start a business with them, rent them out, and then when you get exposed, you just resign and then go get to be rich for the rest of your life.
Yeah, or go work for another activist organization that would be more than happy to have you, because you can't ever really be canceled if you work for people like this. And I think it's interesting that Black Lives Matter they started out trying to claim that they were all about like the police brutality issue, and then they started bailing out like actual criminals. So I don't know if you guys remember the story a few months ago, I think it was. There was a situation in Louisville where this Democratic activist who was planning on running for like city council or something, his name is Quintez Brown, he tried to murder a mayoral candidate.
Oh yeah.
And was locked up for that. And apparently
that.
he was upset that this guy who was a Democrat like wasn't left wing enough for him. BLM went and bailed him out of jail, and you had all of these Democrats like praising this guy for how great he was as an activist like last year. And
Just think about Kyle Rittenhouse.
He attempted
Yeah.
to murder a politician.
Yeah,
yeah,
walked
and
into-
BLM bailed him out. And
They
this was
bailed
at
him out
the
of jail?
exact same time that the Freedom Convoy protesters had their funds seized on Give, Send, Go and all of these other financial platforms.
Was
so
there any question that he attempted to murder the guy?
No, he
None.
walked into the office and they were like, "How can we help you?" And he pulled out a gun.
Why
and
isn't
started
that guy
shooting.
in jail right now?
'Cause
Why
they
is he not
bailed
in
him
prison?
out.
Paid his bail.
What is he like? Okay, so he's bail's another story. If he's not a flight risk, maybe then that's another conversation
he's
completely.
crazy.
But that this corporation is bailing out people is
Yep.
kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter bailed him out.
Yes.
What happened in Illinois? The state gave $300,000 to Black Lives Matter. Kamala Harris has tweeted out a fundraiser for Black Lives, not for Black Lives Matter,
Minneapolis
to,
Bail
to
Fund,
bail out
yeah.
the rioters who were, I'll be careful here. The riots were very much associated with Black Lives Matter, but I don't want to accuse the organization of being the same thing, but very much so. The left is overt in doing all of this stuff. You know how I feel when we're talking about Twitter this while, I was like, does it matter? Do we care? Because at this point, it's like, why are we acting like we have anything to do with those people? For all, the way I see it is, get away from the cities, take care of yourself, because these lunatics are going to go smash windows and destroy businesses. There's no reasoning with them. There's no conversation. We are seeing some of them get charged and sent to jail. This is, a relatively recent thing where people are actually getting charged and convicted. But it's like 2 or 3 here or there out of the hundreds or thousands that were going through each of these cities and destroying them. So at a certain point, it's like, I just don't consider them to be like citizens of the world, of the country that I live in. There's 2 distinct countries and there's no point interacting. The economy of Antifa and BLM does not in any way interact with the economy here of me. So I just ignore it. It's just, what's the point right now? Oh, Black Lives Matter ripped off all a bunch of dumb people. They're happy they got ripped off. They don't care. We're complaining about an organization we didn't donate to. Mm-hmm. So I'm just like, you know what, man? Let people be ripped off.
Yeah.
There was a point where I wanted to go up to people and be like, listen, they're ripping you off. They're taking your money and they're buying houses. But they don't care. They like it. So then what do you do?
Yeah.
Well, you keep doing what you're doing and don't get derailed by it. That's for sure. You make better software technology. I'm not going to stop making better social media tech because there's dumb racists out there. I will acknowledge them. I'm not going to completely ignore them, but I'm not going to let them deviate me from my path. And you should do the same. Continue on your path. Strong.
I think the issue is there was a point where there was an argument between left and right that we were one country and we were going through we're having a bitter period in our relationship. Then at some point, the other half of the relationship started throwing bricks and fire bombs and mortars. And at that point, you should be like when if you're fighting with your significant other, when they start hitting you is when you need to leave.
Yeah.
So at this point, it's like you want to burn down cities. The people who want to stay there and are fine with it I've already given my 2 cents. Like, you need to get away from that. If you don't want to, okay. You know, like, there's a woman being battered by her husband, and you say, get away from him, and then she won't. At a certain point, you're like, I've tried what I can try. If she won't leave, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, and this is one of the things that drives me absolutely crazy about a lot of fellow conservatives is that they still like desperately want the approval of the left, whether it's like corporate media. I mean, for example, I'll go back to the Trump administration. One of my biggest complaints with them was that they were constantly feeding scoops and, you know, leaking to the New York Times and the Washington Post. And it's like, why are you constantly rewarding the people who hate you? No matter what you do, these people are never going to think that you're a good person. Right. They're never going to accept you. They're never going to think the way that you do about issues or policy. They're always going to think that you're evil. And yet constantly, so many people on the right fall into this trap of thinking, if I could just do this one thing, I could change their mind.
This is part of the reason it was so frustrating to me to watch Trump try to get on the side of the media. Yes. And he would make fun of them, and he's like, oh, line mainstream media or whatever. But you know, and at the end of the day, he was like, well, I really actually do care what the New York Times says about me.
He kept doing sit-down interviews with them.
Exactly. Why was the Trump administration inviting people from CNN to go have background briefings with administration officials and letting them have exclusive quotes in interviews and stories? It's crazy to me.
It was Trump's nostalgia.
Yeah.
Why didn't Trump get on Gab or Minds?
Yeah.
Why didn't he do a daily YouTube video blog? I mean, he had everything in front of him, but he's from the 50s, 1950s or whenever he was born.
Or he didn't have anybody in his administration who could tell him, like, hey, you
That
need
too.
to directly connect with people
Such
better.
a flaw.
I think it was kind of both, right? I think part of it was that he longed for the days when he was adored by the media and was this, you know, superstar that could do no wrong, and people really glorified him. And then it was also the staffing issues, where he did have a lot of staff members who were either actively undermining his administration or just really stupid and not very good at their jobs.
Well,
ignorant. That's a good way, because they just didn't know about the technology. They didn't know how to do it.
Is it
not
sure?
necessarily stupid? They
Yeah,
might have
both.
also been stupid. I don't know.
this is one of the reasons why I'm more interested in a DeSantis 2024 than a Trump 2024. Because DeSantis and I've been told it's his wife. They're very savvy with what's happening culturally and on social media.
Great team.
And so I look at that and I'm like, could you imagine how DeSantis would handle the press? Look, they're going to smear him. They're going to try and destroy him the same as they did with Trump, but he's just better at it. And to your point about like a daily YouTube video, that's something I could imagine a DeSantis administration actually doing. Not necessarily that way, but doing something more active on social media for directly connecting with people. I think the issue with Trump is that politically he's in the right place for so many Americans, but he's just very old and he was getting bad advice.
I wonder if DeSantis would be a lot better with the media because they've never liked him. Whereas Trump, he had this long spell where, you know, he was on The Apprentice and he was just big and rich and famous, larger than life personality. And they liked him. They ate it up. They wrote all kinds of stuff about him even before he was running for president. I remember Melania Trump being on the cover of some dumb magazine when she got married to him with her glorious dress. And I was like, never again would we see this once he got elected. And that has to sting. Especially for a guy with an ego like that. But I think DeSantis would get it in the bag.
It will be really awesome, though, if Trump wins in 2024. And then that means he wins with the help of people who voted for Biden in 2020.
Yeah.
Just to prove a point.
Yeah.
Right.
Just to be like, hey, all those people, yeah, Biden was bad.
It'd be like Obama voters.
Yeah.
You know, but real quick, that also means some of these people are going to refuse to vote for Trump out of the personal ego. So they might be like, I can't do that. I can't have been that guy who was like, Trump is worse than Hitler, and now come crawling back to him. I refuse. I will never admit that. You get to DeSantis, and they'll be like, oh, well, I mean, you know, I was always against Biden, and DeSantis is better. So
Yeah.
The other thing that makes me nervous about DeSantis, though, is that I think there have been a lot of more establishment-y and never Trump-y type people who are 100% on board with DeSantis. And that makes me a little bit nervous because I worry that people who were really on board with Trump, particularly the people who moved over from the Democratic Party, the Obama voters, who would see that as a bit of a betrayal. Like, why am I supporting the same guy that these people support? And I wouldn't want to jump away from Trump too quickly because I think a lot of Trump supporters did have a valid reason for liking him in particular, even over other people who support some of the same policies, because he really was a trailblazer for the Republican Party in terms of a lot of those more populisty, nationalistic policies, and also just speaking the way that he did. I know a lot of people who said, I've never heard a politician talk the way that I talk, like at the shop with my
Right.
coworkers or in the locker room with my friends, things like that. And that cult of personality is, I mean, like it or not, really important in politics.
Downside of that, I agree. I like the way he talked. Like, well, I mean, he said some crass stuff, but I like that he was honest and like just off the cuff. And then it's day one, he started reading speeches. He'd come on TV and he'd be talking like this and like that, and like that's not Trump. That's not Donald Trump. That's not how he talks. And it was so he just got filed into the machine. It felt like day one. He had John Bolton on staff, and like I don't want round two. I gotta be honest.
Not right away, Bolton, but I think it was what Sheldon Adelson, told him Trump to do it, and Trump was like, okay. And I guess my understanding is he legitimately thought it was going to be a good idea. That just goes to show that Trump really did not know what to expect when it came to the swamp.
Well, he had Reince Priebus as his chief of staff.
I would imagine if you were going to do it and do it right for real, you'd have to have your own way of doing it. And there'll be tons of people being like, no, don't do it that way. No, we got to stop him. And you'll be like gone and away from them. They can't even find you because you're doing it the way you want to do it.
And what I understand is there was a plan for the second term to root out a lot of the people who were undermining Trump. So like John McEntee was placed in charge of personnel towards the last year. And he was basically compiling like a hit list of employees that were not loyal and needed to get the hell out.
Too late.
And it was too late. And like Amanda Milius was in the Trump administration. She's spoken about changing federal rules so that you can fire non-political appointees more easily and things like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of ways that this could be done better. I just hope that if Trump were to run again, that he would be listening to the right people this time around and make those decisions more wisely.
I think we do another Trump 2024. We do another Trump run with 2024, and then after Trump, you get DeSantis.
Yeah, it's like inevitable.
Yeah.
I mean,
do you think that we can handle that the country can maintain with cult leaders like this, like a singular leader over and over and over again? You think we can
No.
hold
Trump,
together
Trump
as
would
a
have
union
only
with
2
it?
terms.
I fear
He's not
that
a cult leader if he only has 2 terms.
I fear
Same
that
thing
having a
with the president.
central leader is a vulnerability that the country can't handle.
well, having a decentralized leader now isn't any good either.
Well,
He's a centralized authority.
He
He gets all the rules go through him.
No,
And,
actually,
But what I mean is that he's not the head honcho decision maker of his administration.
I disagree.
Do you?
And I think this actually plays into Ian's point. Biden is, and he's insane because his brain has deteriorated to this point. But I think, look, Kamala Harris, 11 staffers have quit on her. She is just sitting there spinning in circles, confused and blabbering, making no sense. There's no real leadership in this administration at all. I genuinely think that there's a combination of 2 things. People exploiting the opportunity and just doing what they want because Biden's out of it. And people who are like, what should we do, Joe? And Joe's like, you gotta, next row wrestling, and
you gotta put him for the war crimes.
Do what
and
the
then
young
they're like,
people want.
and then he gets up and he goes, get it done, and he walks out, and they're like, I don't know what next row wrestling means. What do I do? I legit think that, some people believe that he's a puppet, and I'm like, no, if he was a puppet, there would be a plan. If somebody was in charge, there would be a cohesive string of events.
Do you think it's possible, though, that there's more than one person directly underneath Biden that are competing for that decision-making ability, like Ron Klain or?
Yes, but that's kind of my point too. That they're still beholden to Biden in a certain way, and they're Biden is the central authority, and as a next Nell Rescent, Batacalf care, tuning on a Shabbat of pressure, and whatever garbled word garbage he said, president. They're unable to pull the trigger on things without the president's approval. And the president is just basically a walking corpse at this point. So what that does is when the power is centralized in Biden and Biden can't speak words right, then the whole system is just shaking like a rickety bridge and on the verge of snapping. I disagree with the idea that Trump is a cult leader or a cult of personality. Trump is just a leader.
Well,
he came out and he said, these are problems. And a bunch of Americans were like, we agree. No one's dealing with those things. And so they said, I'll vote for you.
I meant more in the general sense of the way our system's structured, that we vote for our hero, that our popularity contest to put someone in supreme power is like a cult. It's like we call it the government, American government, but it's a cult where we choose our leader. And then we're all like, we're all surrounding the leader.
But it's not. You're
derogatory term to
overlooking
describe it.
Congress, Senate, the Supreme
They're
Court.
there. They're important.
Yeah, I mean,
too.
the executive doesn't have as much power as people think, but I think what's interesting about Trump is that it was almost the opposite of a popularity contest because people almost voted for him because he was unpopular. Like, I don't think Trump was the guy that, I mean, if you go back to like the Bush election, people were like, oh, I'd rather have a beer with Bush than Kerry, for example. Is that really the case with Donald Trump? Like, I don't know. I think a lot of people held their nose and voted for Trump. And
Agreed.
it was kind of the opposite of a popularity contest in that way.
Well,
he
was
met a guy.
it was like
but
despite,
disliked.
I guess that's right. I mean, it was almost like despite his personality, we will vote for him because we like these particular things or we like the way he speaks.
But name recognition.
I was at the airport. I was at a airport. I think I was in Texas. And I went to the lounge at the bar, and there was a woman, and I asked if I asked her to turn off CNN or something and put on Fox. And then she said something about, I can't stand it. We started talking a little bit. There was a guy sitting to my left, and then all of a sudden we were all talking about politics. She told me that she was like, look, I was for Bernie, so I didn't like any of these people. Biden's terrible. And I'm like, here. I felt that way in 2016, but I think Trump at least did stuff we've never seen before, or at least in my generation. The guy to my left chimes in and he goes, oh, I voted for Trump and I'll vote for him again, but I wouldn't invite him to my house for dinner. And then we all laughed. I was like, that's kind of the way I think a lot of people felt about it. He was like, he's a good president, but he's kind of a dick. And I'm like, yeah. A lot of people were like, we recognize the problem of Trump, but he's
and that's
doing
why
things.
The left went so hard on the suburban women vote in 2020 because they really wanted to emphasize Trump's personality defects. What I think the Trump administration or campaign rather did wrong in their response was they tried to win over like white liberal wine moms by talking about criminal justice reform and like everything that they're doing for opportunity zones when they should have been talking about how like Trump could stop the riots before they got to your neighborhood. Like they misunderstood the solution to what the left was telling people about Trump's personality. And he could have leveraged that, I think, in a much more effective way on the campaign trail.
But playing into your point, Ian, about cult leaders and centralized authority, I think if you look at one of the most important issues in the culture war, gun rights, you can see that centralization doesn't have anything to do. It's culture. Georgia is about to sign into law constitutional carry, which will make it the 25th state. And I want to state for the record a correction, because I was right when I was on Joe Rogan's show in November. I said I think majority of the country is constitutional carry. And then Joe was like, no, that can't be right. And I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. And then Jamie looked it up and it said 13 states. And I went, only 13? That doesn't sound right. That was a very old number. It was 24. I believe it was 24 at the time. Yeah. 24 states had it. It may have been 21 at the time because in the past 4 months, there's been a wave.
That's really cool.
But 21, better than 13. So I was wrong, but not that wrong. And I want to make sure that everybody knows this. Georgia is about to sign into law constitutional carry. Yeah. Ron DeSantis is talking about a special legislative session which may include constitutional carry, which would mean 26 states. Woo. Permitless, conceal, and open carry. You walk in, you're a resident. Some of these states are constitutional carry. I think constitutional carry applies to non-residents as well at a certain age limit. It's like 21. That means you can, if you're in Texas and this, and then I think Louisiana doesn't have it, but if you go from Georgia to say Mississippi and they're both constitutional carry, you don't got to worry about crossing that border.
Right. Yeah.
This is a huge cultural change and victory, showing the sentiment of the American people that the federal politicians don't matter. When regular people vote for state reps, for state senators, for local politicians, your state can do right. Seeing all that happen shows just how important it is that we utilize and pay attention to our decentralized political system and don't stay heavily focused on just Trump winning. That is to say, good, vote for Trump in 2024 if that's what you want, but make sure you're voting in the primaries right now. 2022 midterms are coming up, and it's not going to matter if people set up the primaries because you're going to get a whole bunch of rhinos, neocons, establishment, uniparty garbage. But yeah, the constitutional carry thing has me super excited.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I'm a gun owner myself. Well, actually, I recently lost them on a boating accident. It was very tragic, but I love guns. Grew up with guns. And like, I'm a huge proponent of maybe having classes in school where students can learn gun safety. I think that would go a long way towards making people feel more comfortable with gun culture if they didn't grow up with it.
Did you see? I think it was like Alaska or something.
Yeah.
They were doing airsoft training in the
I
gym.
think that is awesome. I mean, what?
No, it's terrible.
Why?
Those kids should be outside with 22s.
Okay, all right, you got me.
They shouldn't be using airsoft in a gym.
That's a good way to
They
use
should be
it.
outside with Ruger 1022s, and they should be getting proper instruction.
It'd be fantastic. I mean, I think that you would see a huge reduction in things like accidental gun deaths or I don't know, like some of these other statistics that the left likes to throw out to make people afraid of guns. If you just raise people to understand that they are a tool that needs to be treated with very specific safety regulations and the way that you behave with a gun, and they're not toys to be played with, and they're not anything to be afraid of.
Let's have a gun debate.
Oh boy.
We have this story from the Daily Mail. Gun-wielding Texas man who shot dead his partner's ex-husband during furious child custody row will not be charged after shooting is ruled to be in self-defense. This is a very, very interesting story. So you can see here, these two guys are getting at it. One guy's got a gun. I think it's a I can't remember which kind of gun it is, but it's a 9mm long gun of some sort. So I'll just give you the quick rundown, and then we're going to have this debate because, we were talking about a bit before the show. So this dude is told, you pick up your son from your ex-wife at 3:15. He shows up. His ex-wife says no. He says, where is my son? She says, I wanted to stay with him longer, so I'm not going to be giving him to you. And he says, in fact, he basically is like, I'm here because the court says 3:15, he is mine. I come here at 3:15. And then he goes, I'm going to drag you all, you, Anne-Marie, and so-and-so to court. Right when he says this, his ex-wife's boyfriend comes out with the gun and comes on the porch and tells him to get out. The dad gets up in his face, doesn't use his arms, and starts saying, oh, are you going to shoot me or something like that? The dude with the gun fires one into the ground. Then they tussle, spin around. The dad pushes the homeowner a few feet off his porch, and the homeowner, his wife's ex-boyfriend, or his wife's current boyfriend, his ex-wife's boyfriend, immediately raises the rifle and goes pop, pop towards his own house, hitting the dad twice, killing him instantly. I believe it was instant. Now, the court is saying he is not going to be charged with a crime. This one's tough because on the letter of the law, I'm torn on this one. Was he acting in self-defense? Did he have a right to shoot and kill this dad who was coming to get his son? There's two ways I look at it. The first is, if the court tells me, be here and get your son, you have to do it. It's custody. Like you can't just ditch your kid. And I show up and they're like, we're not giving the kid up or telling you where he is. And then the dude walks out with a gun. I'm going to be like, you've kidnapped my child and now you're threatening me with a weapon. I'm here under a court order. Does that guy have a right to come out with a gun? On that alone, I'm like, no. And then not only did he shoot and kill the dad, he shot and killed the dad towards his own house. That's one of the rules of gun safety. Know what is beyond your target. He could have shot his own daughter because his daughter was filming on the inside.
I couldn't really tell when we watched the video. Maybe we can watch it again. I don't know. Were you planning on playing it?
I don't know if we can play it.
It's pretty
'cause
brutal.
It's a video of a dude dying. But the daughters are in the house filming out the window.
Okay. When he aims at him and fires, I can't tell if he's pointed at the house or like
It's at the
pointed
house.
sideways alongside the house.
Well, the guy was
it's at
on
the
the
house.
porch, so I'm pretty
Right.
sure it was at the house. And then the other problem was that he shot into the ground to sort of escalate the situation.
Yep.
And that's another no-no. You don't fire warning shots, right? Like, because you don't know where you're pointing.
I think they knew each other. The big dude was abusive, and the little guy.
Why was the big dude abusive?
This is the feeling I'm getting from this. The big guy was notably abusive. That's why they weren't together. And the little guy, they knew each other and they hated each other.
Or like clearly hate each
That's
other.
the vibe
Sure.
I was getting because he went right at his face when he came out with the gun. They got right in each other's face.
So this is the problem I have with it. If the assumption of this guy's name is William Carruth, who shot and killed Chad Reed. If you're in your house and you hear fighting outside and you don't know what's going on, you have a right to keep and bear arms. It's your property. I agree. I might get my gun as well if people are screaming. I'll be like, I don't know what's going on, but there might be something bad happening. You walk out with your gun. Next thing you know, a guy gets up in your face, starts screaming at you. Your first reaction is to fire into the ground as like, you can call an escalation, but if you have the option to shoot the guy who just got up in your face, maybe he just panicked and said, I think it's stupid to shoot in the ground, mind you. And then the guy grabs you. You both spin. He pushes you back. Now he's separated you from your home. He could go in and harm your daughters. So you say, nuh-uh, pop, pop. from that perspective, I'm like, I get it. We don't know what this guy knew, but the problem is, man, the Chad Reed guy was there legally to pick up his kid. And it didn't even there was not enough time for him to even call the cops. Apparently, his new wife was already calling the police about the argument when the yelling happened. And all the dad said was, I'm taking you to court. Like, not even a threat of violence. And the dude walks out with a gun. This is the challenge here. Because if this dude, William Carruth, knew why the dad was there, and what was going on and came out with his gun, then I'd say charge him. But we can't assume he did know. And he can just be like, I had no idea. I heard yelling. And then it's like gun rights. If people are fighting on your property, you got a right to defend it.
And like you said, and we don't know the history of these two guys. I mean, it's possible that they've gotten into it before. He knows that this guy could potentially come into the house and harm his own children or be looking for this kid. I mean, we really don't know the situation. I'm also sympathetic to the idea that if your son is being withheld from you and you have a right to be with your son, then parental instinct kind of kicks in, and like people will do anything to save and help their children if they feel like their children are being parentally kidnapped. So I understand that impulse. At a certain point, though, you have to be smart enough to think, if I get myself involved in this situation, if I'm trying to grab this guy's gun, whatever, am I better off trying to be the better person and retreat and potentially save my life and get the court or the police involved, as opposed to trying to start this fight that you're not going to win because you don't also have a weapon? I mean, it's
a
difficult situation. I don't really know who is right here. I mean, maybe they both were wrong in different ways.
But it's tough because, like, do you send a guy to jail because he pulled a gun out his own property because a guy was yelling and then a guy got in his face? But then I'm also thinking about, if the court orders someone to be there and you come out, like, imagine if this guy was a cop who's instructed to be there for law enforcement purposes, and you walk out with your gun and the cop rushes you. I guess it's different. My issue is just like, this dude is trying to get his child, and when the wife is saying no, and he's like, my kid's been kidnapped, a dude then comes out with a gun. And at that point, I'm sure the dad's like, you've kidnapped my child and are threatening me with a rifle, with a long gun. Like, yo, I'm surprised all he did was get in his face.
Well, he also chest bumped him, which is aggravated.
That's what I mean. I'm surprised
assault.
All he did.
And then he touches the gun too. He touches the hand that's on the gun,
He
which
swats
basically
it
is
away.
that dual possession at this point, like the Ahmaud Arbery case. If you put your hand on the weapon, that's basically you're telling me you're going to try and take it out of my hands.
But not when they separate and the dude goes pop pop. Mm-hmm. The challenge is, do you really blame a dad for getting in the face of a guy who walked out with a gun when his son's missing?
We got to talk about what's legal and what's right.
That's the thing. Like, morally, I don't think that he was necessarily wrong, but legally, I don't know that even if somebody has your kid, if you're allowed to go into somebody else's home or try to grab that, like, I don't know what the legal situation
I think
is there.
Definitely not. If
Right.
someone ever comes out on their front porch with a rifle and tells you get off their property, get off their property.
Right, you go to the truck and you call the police. I mean, you're asking for a bad situation at this point. Not to victim blame, but
I think that's the best we can do, to be honest.
Yeah.
That he should have immediately backed away, and said, I'm getting the cops. And the cops would have come and he would have won the fight.
Exactly.
The cops would have been like, you are illegally withholding a child. You can't come out here with that weapon. Go back in your house.
And guess
Where's the
what?
kid?
He would have probably gotten more custody of the kid
Yep.
Yeah.
if he had let this play out, because they would have been accused of endangering the child as well.
Yeah. That split second of the dad walking up to do with a gun.
You see him snap when the guy comes out with the gun. He just goes right in his face. Like, he wants to fight that guy.
Man. Yeah, because if his kid it's his son,
The
man.
way
It's like he doesn't even care
escalated
about the
so
kid anymore. He
quickly.
just wants to
Yeah.
hurt the guy.
Well,
This was like almost inevitable to me, the way that these guys were so quick to go after each
Well,
other.
let's get to the dark part. The dark part is the mom has the kids living with the dude who killed their dad.
That's
And
nuts.
apparently the kids were like, this is your fault.
This is
Mom.
almost
You
like
killed
these
Dad."
kids are probably going to hear this show someday, man. At this point, it's like, I'm sorry, guys. I mean, I'm here
Apparently
for you.
the kids are like really upset.
No
As they
kidding.
should be.
I got to be honest. If it were me when I was a kid, I would have ran away.
Yeah.
No joke. I'm not gonna. There's no way I'd live with the dude who killed my dad.
Well, now I don't know enough about the conversation because that guy might have been really abusive. But you said the kids. I mean, it's still their dad.
No, they're apparently saying like it's your fault. Wow. It's a crazy story.
This is America.
It's so traumatic, and
They're aware that
this
Kyle
is-
Carruth shot and killed their father in front of their mother, stepbrother, and myself. A judge denied the petition for custody. So this is This is the dead father's new wife. She was trying to get custody, and they were like, "No, you're not a blood relative." So the kids have to live with the dude who killed their dad.
There's so much with our custody system that is at fault here too, because like the default would be you have to go to a blood relative is obviously super problematic when you have family members that are not fit to raise children. And I think it's really unfortunate that you can't assign to like a family friend or a distant relative or something like that in a situation like this, where clearly these kids are living in a traumatic, potentially abusive situation, and yet you can't separate them for whatever reason. It's another reason why I think, for example, like a lot of the impulse to always give custody of the children or majority custody to the mother is not always the best policy either. So there's a lot that needs to be reformed in that system. Maybe if they had gotten this right from the beginning, this issue wouldn't have arisen to begin with.
Man, I suppose the challenge is the moment that Chad Reed was on the porch with access to the house and Carruth was off the porch with no access to the house, that's where it becomes justification. Because now he's in between Carruth and his daughters.
Yeah.
Is it not justification if you're just like, get off my property?
Hold
and then the
on.
guy...
I don't know if it was Carruth's daughters. It might have been Chad Reed's daughters.
Ooh, I don't know.
Yeah, it might have been his kids. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, I guess there's some context we would need to pull up. I think it was his. It might have been his kids in there. I'm not entirely sure.
If it was Chad's daughters, then that would have made this guy with a gun more callous about pointing it toward the house. I think that actually kind of makes sense, which I would think would then be an argument for not ever leaving those kids in his custody ever. These poor kids now, I don't know where they end up. It's so sad.
Yeah, I think the kids inside the house were Chad Reed's kids, not Carruth's kids.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I'm not sure though. That's important.
Yeah, a little bit.
But he was only there to pick up his son, so again, I'm not entirely sure. It's been a while. We covered this we talked about it when the story first broke, but I wonder if people are pointing it out. No, I don't know. Well, you guys comment, you guys super chat, and then we'll get to it when we talk about super chat, so we can maybe correct the record if we mix something up. Crazy stuff, man.
I'm curious.
Yeah, this is a crazy philosophical conundrum. I gotta say. How about we? Do you guys want to waste time talking? No, let's not.
Yeah, personally,
I feel like wasting
Madonna, or we can talk about something more.
What's
serious.
Madonna up to? Yeah.
time. Oh gosh.
All right, let's talk about
I'm
Madonna.
talking about Madonna one hot minute.
I think this is one of those stories that we can get in trouble for talking about. It's man, this is more of a like a pop culture kind of thing, but I also think I kind of just want to talk about it.
She got a lot of face work done.
A
Yeah.
little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
So take a look at this. Madonna's bizarre TikTok video raises eyebrows as fans grow concerned over the star's unsettling appearance. What has she done to herself?
This was such a weird video too. I saw it.
First, it does look like she got ridiculous plastic surgery, and it makes her look really bad. But there's a couple of things I wanted to point out, and I think this plays to like cultural issues. For one, the obsession with relevance on social media. Clearly now, like this is like, what did she post it on TikTok?
Yeah.
And everyone's sharing it. But I wonder if this is actually just the front-facing camera making her look
Yeah, it looks like a
distorted.
fisheye lens of some sort.
Right.
I don't think so, because she's posted other
Bathtub video.
photos and videos, the bathtub
Yeah.
thing on her Instagram and TikTok that make it pretty clear that this is some pretty heavy work being done. And she like had her butt done too. And it's one of those really obviously fake situations where you don't even know how they sit down on it.
Gosh, uncomfortable.
So here, look at this video. You can see it. It's just creepy. Oh man, it's so cringe. It's so creepy. What is going on? So here's why I want to talk about this, because it is kind of relaxing to talk about the inanity of this pop culture stuff. But I also think what people don't realize, celebrities get plastic surgery, and then they look really good, and no one says anything.
Yeah, no one knows.
But then when they age, the weird scar tissue doesn't age the same way a regular face would. So they start to look really, really weird as they get older.
I used to take care of old ladies, and sometimes they'd get boob jobs. And these things would stay where they were implanted, and the rest of the lady would sag.
Oh,
and I was like,
no.
why did you do this to yourself? It was horrible. And you could just see them. Oh my gosh, it was horrible. But anyway, yeah.
I want to
Nope.
advise people not to get plastic surgery unless you have to.
Yeah,
Like
good
for
advice.
medical reconstruction or something. Don't do it. Don't hurt yourself, man.
Why does anyone do it? I really don't get it.
I mean, the only situation I could see that's semi-justifiable is if you're like a TV personality and you get like a little bit of Botox to even out lines in the forehead. I mean, something really minor.
But why?
Vanity is a real thing, and unfortunately, when you have people on social media for all of their lives, I think it's more difficult now than ever to age gracefully. And these people are really nasty about appearances on the internet. I mean,
my teeth are jagged like a jigsaw puzzle. I wear the same clothes every day. I wear a beanie all the time. I got no hair, whatever. I'm not going to get surgery. I'm not going to get I got crowns, I think.
Yeah,
that was because my molar cracked. I had a root canal when I was little, and then this one.
Yeah, reconstructive surgery is fine. I mean, you want to use plastic surgery for reconstructive burn surgery, stuff like that. That's what it's for. I mean, that's a phenomenal advancement in human medicine, but don't rip up your face.
Well, and did you guys hear about this story with Bella Hadid, the supermodel who got a nose job when she was 14 years old? Like, her face wasn't even done growing into itself yet. And apparently her parents signed off on this cosmetic procedure. And now, of course, she regrets it. She's like, I had this really interesting ancestral nose, and I think I would have grown into it. And now I'm forever living with the knowledge that I modified myself in a way that I'm not happy with when I was 14.
They're going to get, I was hearing stories about like young girls wanting to get plastic surgery to look like filters. And that like older women are getting plastic surgery to look like the filters make them on Instagram. Yo, there is a malignancy. Is it coming from the internet that's making people, like that's what I was saying before about like social media, TikTok, whatever, making people do this?
It's coming through the internet, but it's not from the internet. It's coming from people. Individuals are either inadvertently perpetuating a sick cycle. Probably they want to look like cartoon characters. A lot of this, like the whole idea of the furry thing. Like I think I'm a fuzzy animal.
No, they don't think they're animals. They think they're cartoons.
I think the most beautiful you can be is who you really are. You don't need to mash up your face or your body or any of that stuff. Eat healthy, too, because it makes you more beautiful.
True that, yeah.
This is the crazy thing to me, too. I've never really understood why everybody wants to be somebody else.
Not everybody.
I mean that figuratively.
I know what you mean, because even I play role-playing games. I like to fantasize about being a hero in a strange land. And sometimes it makes me a better performer just thinking those things, like living out fantasy realities.
I mean, like, of course we play games. Sometimes there is escapism. That I'm not talking about that. I'm saying how, like, people are like, they look in the mirror and they're, I need to cut this up and restructure it. I want to be something different. It's like, why? I don't understand why you're not happy with just being you.
I think that this especially applies to women. I don't know if you agree with me on this.
100%.
I find it to be so much simpler to just be yourself, put a little bit of makeup on, paint the barn, my dad used to say. But I think in Madonna's case, it's because she's getting older and she knows it. And I think it's terrifying to her. So she's like really going out.
Well, especially in like the world of pop stardom, right? You almost have an age limit on how long you're allowed to be relevant in the industry. And there's a lot of pressure from music executives to look a certain way. I mean, like, gone is the world of these amazing, like, 70s singer-songwriters that could look however, but as long as they delivered a good music product, they would be really successful. Now there's really this pop star culture where you kind of have to look and dress a certain way in order to be popular in the music industry, and I think that's really unfortunate. And then there's the question of just social media's amplification of people's insecurities. I mean, growing up, like, as a young teen girl, I felt like we all had body image issues and worried about our appearance. I can't imagine how much more difficult that would have been if I was on Instagram all day looking at these influencers who all look exactly the same, yet none of them are real. They all have plastic surgery or filters or all of these other body modification tools at their disposal, editing software, Photoshop, things like that. When you're fed that feedback loop constantly, that's really hard for young women. And I think if you're a parent, like, you have to be thinking about limiting your kids' access to social media and their phones as much as possible.
No social media.
None. I don't want them to have a phone. Nothing. Like, you get a brick iPod and that's it.
Yeah.
And this is funny too, because several years ago I was like, I got my niece a cell phone so that she could learn apps and do all this stuff and be tech savvy. And then I remember being like, her dad took it away saying I don't want her to have this, and I was like, why would he do that? Now after a couple of years, I'm like, oh yeah, that was a good decision.
Yeah.
Take a look at this photo right here.
Oh, these guys.
Oh no!
You guys, oh no!
I've seen this before.
Look at so these are the two famous brothers
the
or whatever.
Bogdanov twins, I think.
What are they called?
Bogdanov.
Bogdanov twins.
Yeah.
Did one of them die recently?
I think they both did.
Yeah, they both did. Why would they want to look like that?
So they were TV stars, right?
So check this out. Ready for this?
Oh gosh.
That's them when they were younger.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Before work, they
They
still
they
have a
that
lot of
still
work
looks a
done.
little-
Yeah.
Right. They still look
They're
weird.
starting to look like everything else.
But like
That's the problem
it-
with work. It makes you look like everything else.
But I'm wondering if
Vague and boring.
no, I'm wondering if they got the work when they were young, and this is what happens when you age with all that.
No, that's
weird-
more work.
more work.
More work, definitely.
Yeah, they went overboard.
100%.
Did they think they looked good?
Yeah.
No,
I think it's
so.
kind of
No.
like
They
I think
never
it-
did.
I think social or plastic surgery is kind of addictive in the way that tattoos are to some people
Yeah.
as well.
That's how it is. If you think you look bad, no amount of plastic surgery is going to change that. So these
Exactly.
people do it, and then they still think they look, and then they do it, and they still think it's
This-
like comes from within.
This makes me think a little bit of gender reassignment
Yes.
surgery, because the problem is not in your physical body. It is 100% inside your head, and no amount of changing your body is going to fix what's going on in your mind. And this is what people who detransition say. They're like, nobody dealt with the problem that was, my
Yeah,
thinking.
I will say
unless-
the food is like no amount of plastic surgery is going to fix your mind, but the food can fix your body and your mind.
Well, look, if you look in the mirror and I think plastic surgery, cosmetic surgery, and any kind of body modification surgery, any kind, be it trans species like some people do or transgender or whatever, I think you've got a disconnect between your perception, your body or whatever. As you're mentioning, that's the issue. Like the
Body dysmorphia.
Yeah.
So my issue here is there's literally nothing you can do unless we develop like nanotech cellular reprogramming or something, and then you go into like a stasis chamber that changes your body or something. We just do not have the technology to actually give you something that represents what you see and
Right.
or want.
Nor should we. I mean, I don't think.
Well, I mean, if we literally develop technology that you can like actually, I don't know, physically change your body literally, legitimately in the future somehow, then I'd be like, okay, whatever. I say okay, whatever to a lot of, look, if these people want to do this, I got no problem with it. I'm just saying right now, the technology does not exist to make you look the way you want to look.
Right. So right now, our best course of action is to teach people that it's going to be hard, but you're going to have to change the way that you think. And you can use cognitive behavioral therapy. There are a lot of different things that you can do. I don't know. Most people don't want to go on to antidepressants. I completely understand that. But right now, we have the power to change how you view the world. And even though I know it's hard and every day might be a struggle, people who deal with addictions have this and they overcome it. And this is something that they really get a grip on. And every single day is a struggle. And they still manage to do it. So I think if we can change people's minds now, we should make that a higher priority than trying to change our bodies.
Let me ask this question though, for because you were saying they shouldn't, like people shouldn't modify their bodies. Is that a fair assessment?
I mean, in cases where they have like a medical problem, I think that's different. For aesthetic reasons, no, I don't think they should.
Like what if we get to the point technologically where you can actually take a 10-year-old kid and they walk inside a chamber and then they actually completely change genders, like literally biologically 100%.
Mm-hmm.
No.
You don't think they should do it?
No, absolutely not. I mean, and I'm Catholic, so maybe this has like something to do with it, but I'm very resistant to altering human nature in the way that we experience the world. I think that gets to really dangerous places.
What if they were 18 and they walked in and like a genie snap, boom, they were the opposite sex?
And I still think that's bad.
No.
Yeah, I'm not about that at all.
It's an interesting question because, as we're thinking about plastic surgery and all that stuff, I'm like, is the issue permanent body damage that these kids are going to be, many of them sterilized, or is that the issue? And then if there was a way that the kid actually changed,
like, to me, I don't support gender transitions generally because I don't think they address the underlying issue, which is the insecurity and the body dysmorphia. And then for kids, it's worse because it's life-changing and they're not obviously of age to consent to that type of
it's going to be real
change.
crazy when we're in the metaverse. You're going to have a kid born in the metaverse and they're going to be like, oh, hey, mom, I'm trans. And then they like click a button and their avatar just changes. But we're at the point where your brain is plugged in and their digital bodies are indistinguishable from base reality, then people are going to be walking around like dragons and carrots, and there's going to be like a rabbit. You're going to sit down in your office, and there's going to be like a big rabbit, and he's going to be like, hello, I'm John, your boss.
I just don't see any way how that's not bad for like a truth-centric society, right? Like, we should want people to try to seek truth.
This will be crazy.
You gotta define truth.
If we get to the point where we primarily exist in the metaverse, You could be born into a digital reality where your brain's plugged in like the Matrix. Choose an avatar for yourself that's, say, like a giant carrot. And then one day when the metaverse breaks down and you get ejected from it, you'll be like, oh, what am I? Like, I'm not a carrot anymore. And you'd be like, you'd freak out, you know?
I actually took some heat last week. I know, imagine that, on Twitter again. But I was talking about this press release I got from this company that is actually partnering with the metaverse to create a Narcos experience in the metaverse. So you basically get to be a drug lord and like run this cartel
Grand
or whatever.
Theft Auto.
Like that. But for me, it's a different experience when you feel like you're in it, right? Like that's Westworld level stuff. And I play video games. Like, I'm definitely not a person who says ban video games because they lead to violence or anything like that. But to me, the metaverse, and there's been preliminary studies that have talked about the effects of virtual reality on the brain. And apparently, when you're doing these things in the metaverse or in virtual reality, your brain actually stores them or implants them as if they were real memories.
Interesting.
And so if you're going in and doing violent stuff in the metaverse, how does that fundamentally alter someone's perception of the world? And what negative effects could that have for people's entire lives after that? If you think that you killed somebody or you think that you were running drugs, like I don't see how that can lead anywhere good for society.
I think we often talk about the negative things about the metaverse, but there's positive things too. Safety trainings, you know, without real risk of harm for a lot of issues. Training firefighters, training police officers.
People are gonna go in there with legalized psychedelics. It's gonna be so crazy, dude. Society is about to split into. It's about to fractalize into a bunch of different ways of being. It's gonna be nuts, dude. Different laws, different societies, different religions and relationships, different languages are gonna start springing up.
Yo, they're gonna, like in North Korea, they'll take thousands of citizens, plug them into the metaverse, and just never tell them. Just to like see what happens.
Oh, dude, I've been working on a script, by the way. I'll tell you about it later.
But think about this.
Thanks for reminding me.
So you have in your country people who do physical labor for producing food and resources and machines, and then you have intellectual and abstract labor, which is like writing songs or developing code, software, things like that. You could take all of your intellectual property development people and put them in the metaverse and just seal them off. And then they can do the same. They can do the work digitally with their minds plugged into a computer, and then everyone else can just till the fields and make food or whatever.
Yeah, what'll happen is their mind will be working so fast, but if their body gets disturbed, it'll slow down their thought process, and they'll be like, "No, we can't have that. Do not disturb his body. Keep it sealed off so his brain can work at peak capacity."
Imagine right now, all of a sudden you're sitting wherever you're sitting, you're watching this show, you feel this pulling sensation in the back of your head. And then all of a sudden it feels like you are actually being pulled out of your body. And then there's a flash of light and you're standing in a field and you're a duck. You'd freak out, right?
Yeah.
You'd be like, what is this? Like, where are my hands? Why am I a duck? That's what it's going to be like for people who grow up in the metaverse and choose to be a duck and then one day get pulled out and they're a human. They're going to be like, I have hands. What am I? Their identity would be totally fractured and separated from their bodies, you know?
I wanted to cap off this plastic surgery conversation because I was trying to bend my face. Like I'd pull the bones open slowly over time. So like I'll spend an hour and just hold it in place. And I think it actually slowly moves over time like clay.
What?
I can't tell if it's real or not.
Well, that's why they tell women when you're putting like moisturizer on your face, you're supposed to go like this instead of like this.
Yeah.
Or like this.
The bones are growing and moving. You can slowly over time move pull the jaw outward if you want a bigger jaw and stuff like that. It just takes a lot of time.
Yeah, those ladies, they put the rings on their neck and they make their necks really
right.
long.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's true.
All right, let's go to the super chats. My friends, if you have not already, smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show if you really do like it, and head over to timcast.com. We're going to have a members-only segment coming up around 11 p.m. or so, just around there, and we will get to your super chats. Everyone in chat is saying, yo, WTF, LOL, Ian's crazy.
Adrian
Give it a try
says
yourself
LOL.
before you don't knock it till you try it.
All right, let's read some of this. Malcolm McKee says, previous super chat. Previous super chat. Other accounts whom have met the same criteria for such a ban remain untouched. Putin, Ayatollah, Taliban, Justin Trudeau. I don't think we got your first super chat.
I saw one disappear, and I'm frustrated.
Well, for those that are listening, if you super chat before the show goes live, YouTube erases it.
Yeah,
So.
don't do that. Be patient.
GG Player says, Amber kind of looks like she could be Lydia's sister.
Oh, I like that.
Look at us.
I love it. Haha.
That's very nice.
Yeah, I'll take that.
All right. The Lukewarm Gamer says Rumble should put money into non-political culture content to bring people who aren't political to the platform. If Rumble signed a deal with Hollow Live, for example, it would damage YouTube more than getting any political YouTuber. Yeah, that's the one thing I've been saying to all these guys who are doing alternative stuff is like, everybody just keeps going politics. And I'm like, why?
Well, and also the people who do entertainment-minded stuff are not very good at it. Like, people on the right need to be developing talented filmmakers and artists and people who can create content that's entertaining, that doesn't suck and doesn't have all of these like really shoehorned political messages in it.
I think gaming's where it's at. You get gamers on Rumble because I mean, look at Roblox, worth $40 billion.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely. All right, Derek Brown says, if anyone can do what everyone else thinks is impossible, it's Elon Musk. He always has a plan.
Yeah.
I like how Elon was warning us about the art of the AI, and then he's like, Neuralink. And some people there's a meme where they're like, Elon Musk warns about the dangers of artificial intelligence, then literally tries to plug your brain into a computer. But people don't realize he said the same thing. I'm pretty sure Elon said the only solution to the threat of AI is to integrate with it. I'm pretty sure that was his point.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah. So then AI can't destroy you if you are the AI. You guys ever see that new? Have you seen that new Terminator movie where the Terminator is John Connor or whatever, and he has like the weird robot powers?
No, I heard it was terrible.
Well, maybe. But I was thinking about it because in that movie, so this time the Terminator is John Connor, and the Terminators are like, we realized the only way to defeat humanity was to merge with them, and they're like, oh no, and I'm kind of like, okay, so you're still a person, but you have crazy robot superpowers. I don't understand why that's a bad thing. I mean, I guess if you don't want to have crazy robot superpowers, because he could he had like nano power, like nano robots, and he could like, change shape and do crazy stuff. Like, is that bad?
I don't think so. Depends who you ask, I guess.
I think you don't like it.
It's true. I don't. You nailed that.
Yeah.
For the same reasons I don't like the other stuff that we talked about.
Yeah, that's a scary thought about what's happening with metaverse stuff. It's going to separate your mind from your body.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they ask you what you lost, you won't be able to remember.
Yeah.
That's scary.
All right. America Float says it feels like false hope from Musk since BlackRock and Vanguard own nearly just as much each. Maybe a pump and dump, one last ride for Twitter stock, or maybe phase one. Maybe a bunch of other billionaires and wealthy individuals will start buying shares of Twitter and pushing back.
BlackRock only owns half of what Musk has.
Yeah, BlackRock only owns like 4.6%.
But that means BlackRock and Vanguard together have what? 13?
Together
12,
they have
13,
12.
yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, that's maybe what it is he's going to try and get a majority stock. I don't know. It's not worth it, dude. Don't throw billions at that junk, but free the software code.
All right. Jacob Andrew Hester says, Tim, driving to your neck of the woods for work from Alabama due to bad flight delays. Any good steak or seafood restaurants you recommend? Thanks for everything y'all do. We sane people appreciate. You mean sane people? If you are driving on 340, heading just past Harper's Ferry, you'll eventually come across a gas station that says live seafood. That's what it says, right? It says live seafood.
I don't know.
Apparently, it's a gas station with seafood, and everyone out here is like, it is the best. Because it's like small country, knows what they're doing seafood.
Interesting. Well, Amber's a native. So
I
she has
am.
really good recommendations for seafood, too.
I guess it depends on where exactly this guy's traveling through. Like, is he going to D.C. or...
He can take 15, 20 minutes out of his day to go hit up the Harper's Ferry, Virginia, Maryland area. There's the Bavarian Inn, really good. In I think it's in Shepherdstown, right? You're familiar with them? Mm-hmm. And then this other restaurant we've been to that's really amazing is called Dutch's Daughter.
Oh, yeah. I love that restaurant.
Have you been there before?
Many times.
Are you a fan?
It's overrated.
You think it's overrated?
Yeah.
I liked it.
I thought
It's
it was
fine. I think it's really overpriced. I mean, compared to like 5-10 years ago, their crab cakes used to be some of the best in Maryland, and they've really gone downhill.
Well, I haven't had the crab cakes, but I had a steak.
Did you get the filet Oscar?
Yes.
That's the move.
It was
with
so
the béarnaise.
good. Yeah.
That is pretty good.
and the crab
Imperial.
yes.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
That's a great
See,
restaurant.
you're like it's overrated, but
Well,
that
it
was
might
good.
mean you're paying what, like $40-50 for
It is
that?
overpriced.
Yeah, it was
though.
expensive.
I mean, you could just like go to DC and go to Morton's for that and get like a cowboy ribeye.
DC ribeye. This was a filet mignon.
Where's the best seafood in D.C.?
In DC, you probably should go to the Wharf and go to one of like the old family-owned restaurants on there. There are a couple of them, like fish market vibes. But the best crab cake that I've had in recent years is at Jimmy's Seafood, which
Yeah.
Lee and I were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And they got into a war with PETA a few years ago and put up all these billboards around Baltimore, just like
Oh, I remember that.
basically bragging about the fact that they were live steaming crabs, and PETA got really upset about it. But they do make a really damn good crab cake, like lump meat, size of a softball,
Yes.
really good stuff.
How do you feel about stem cell meat?
I'm willing to
I
bet
just think she doesn't like it.
I'm willing to bet.
The filet Oscar at Dutch's Daughter was one of the best filet mignon steaks I've ever had.
Really?
I mean, the preparation was
Well, maybe
perfect.
they've improved since the last time I was there. It's
I don't
been
know.
a year.
Maybe we just have different tastes.
Could be.
I
have better taste. It could be. I don't know.
We've gone to a bunch of steakhouses in our day. Alex Jones brought us out to, I think we went to, was it Capitol Grill?
I didn't go. I missed out.
Yeah, I think it was like me and Luke. And really good. But when I went to Dutch's Daughter and I got the filet Oscar, it's like a filet mignon with like crab on it. Mm-hmm. Oh, it was just cooked perfectly.
Yeah, and I will say, generally speaking, corporate steakhouses are not the best place to go if you want a really good steak.
Yeah.
Because it's so standardized across all these different restaurants that sort of inevitably there's going to be a decline in quality at some point.
Do you like the Bavarian Inn in Shepherdstown?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're really good too.
Yeah.
That's so much fun. It's like a Bavarian Inn complex. It's so
oh, cool.
Yeah. All right, let's read some more super chats.
I think we're hungry.
Yeah, lizards. Well, someone asked, and I'm like, oh man, we've been
Yeah,
looking to find like the good food because we periodically will do like company outings where everyone goes out.
Jimmy's, I want to try it.
What kind of Mexican food do you guys like?
Oh, mi degollado. Oh, this is amazing. So there's a Mexican restaurant out here. It's called Mi Degollado, and it is amazing. I love getting the chicken fajitas. It's just so perfect.
It's like Tex-Mex is up your alley.
Yeah, but mi degollado means like my slit throat, like my to cut a man. It means like to cut a man's throat.
That's right. I remember.
And so, I remember asking the server, like, hey, like, what does this mean? And he's like, oh, it means to cut someone's throat. And we were like, wow.
That's
He
awesome.
was like, oh, it's the name of the town the owner's from. And then I was like, I don't know if that's better.
Yeah.
Like,
Is
you're
it?
from a town? And then I was like, well, if there was a town called, like, Cutthroat in New Mexico, I wouldn't think twice. I'd be like, oh, yeah, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
But, yeah, that's what I like.
Huh.
Well,
Yeah, I go there pretty
there's
often.
a couple of good places in the DC area. Anita's gets really good reviews. I like to go to Uncle Julio's, which has like 3 or 4 locations in the area, but despite being a chain, actually has fantastic fajitas. Just don't get their queso. Their queso sucks.
What's that famous sandwich place?
Oh, there's so many.
The one that Richie went to. You remember?
Oh, I'd have to find the text. I don't recall.
I don't know. He was
it like an Italian sub that he got or something?
What did he? No, I got a roast beef,
Let me
Roast
see
beef.
what
and he was like, it was like some from famous DC sandwich
Bub and
place.
Pops?
No.
Oh, Stachowski's Market?
No. We'll just read more super
I'll
chats.
see if I can.
All right. Ian went to the bathroom, so I'm going to read this one now before he gets back. Lizard says, "You're rolling lots of 20s today, Ian. Good job." He will never hear your compliment. No, we'll make sure to tell him when he gets back in the room. All right. Noah says, "Love the show, guys. I just want to use my first super chat to let you know that Louisiana has also introduced their own version of the Parental Rights and Education Bill. Look up Louisiana House Bill 837. Amazing.
Cool.
Glad
We
to hear
love
it.
That catches on.
This is the craziest thing. Someone on Facebook posted, why are we mad at Disney now? And I wrote, the left is upset that Disney did not sign on to the protests against the Parental Rights and Education Bill. They feel that the bill discriminates against the LGBTQIA community by preventing teachers from having discussions about these issues with kids, grades kindergarten to 3rd grade. The right is upset with Disney for now having signed on to the protest because they feel that the bill is preventing teachers from having sexualized conversations with young children. And I thought it was like a very milquetoast, like, this is to the best of my understanding. And they all just got mad. And they were like, no, bigots. And I'm like, okay, whatever, man. I don't know. Mimatype says, did you all see Steven Crowder own Stephen Monticelli in his latest Change My Mind? I did. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
That's the guy who
did.
canceled me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He did get owned. It was awesome.
Oh, you did see it?
Oh, I found it very enjoyable.
Schadenfreude.
you did.
I was watching like this. It's like excellent.
That's awesome.
All right, let's grab some. What do we got? Charles Bloomer says that Steven guy is the same guy that tried to outsmart Crowder on the last Change My Mind episode. And what was he thinking? It's just so crazy to me that you're like, I didn't do any research, but I'm going to sit down with a guy who built a whole show about this one topic.
That's the thing is like the media people who write for these mainstream outlets don't have to know anything
Right.
because they never are held accountable when they get things wrong. And a lot of them are just like super narcissistic, arrogant people who become journalists not because they care about information or truth or whatever, because either they want to promote a certain cause or they want to promote themselves. I mean, that's just kind of how it is now.
Yep. All right, what do we got here? John Froist says, if the Earth is orbiting the sun at 93 million miles away, how is the North Star always north? P.S. I am not a flat earther, and the Google answer is laughable. Off the top of my head, I would assume it's because the North Star is so far away that it's like, parallax scrolling. You ever see that in video games? You know what parallax scrolling is?
Yeah, parallax is when the farther away it is, the slower it looks like it's moving in the sky.
Yeah, vanishing point perspective. So in a video game where you're playing like a 2D side scroller, there will be multiple layers to the background that move at different paces. The further away it is, the slower it goes, because that's kind of how it tries to imitate real life. Well, that's kind of why the North Star is always pointing north, because it's so ridiculously far away that the amount of movement we experience in our days and lifetime doesn't change it.
Also, electric universe. Check out the electric universe theory. It's pretty cool.
Zach Helke says, I would take a bullet to the spleen for Amber Athey's right to make a joke. We all need to subscribe to The Spectator to make sure she can keep making them.
Wow, that's
Yes.
really nice. Thank you. Should I give them my discount code, or is that like
Do you
frowned
have one?
upon? I do.
Oh,
It's in
yeah,
the
of course.
description.
Oh,
Yeah,
perfect.
I
Yeah, if you use Amber, all caps, you get 10% off a Spectator subscription.
Oh, wow. So is this a campaign based off of them firing you? Or you've always had it?
I've always had
Oh,
that.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm opportunistic, but not that opportunistic.
Oh, yeah. I mean, maybe we should figure something like that out with Timcast.com. All right. A lot of people are commenting that Steve Guy was on Crowder. It wouldn't surprise me to believe he was the cause of this. Yep. Mm-hmm. All right. Mike Sullivan says, Tim, great guest. Hire her. Well, she already works for The Spectator. Just gave out her discount code. So
She's a great co-host, though. I
Well,
love
thank
it.
you, though. That's nice.
John L says, Amber, I'm sure James O'Keefe would have a much easier time digging if you sat down and talked with him. It doesn't have to be public. The only problem now is, like, could you imagine if a silhouette of Amber just appeared on Project Veritas? I wonder who that is.
Yeah, gosh, can't imagine. I mean, maybe off the record. I can't say anything now because I don't want to get sued, but we'll see.
All right. Brian Duchesne says, Tim, I was a big fan of your show when I first found it. Thank you very much. That's all he said. Moving on.
Oh,
No, I'm
is
kidding.
that all he said?
He says, but after watching it for a few months, Ian and others have proven this show is full of amateurs. By the way, that includes you.
Oh, I never.
Well,
Who are these others you're talking about?
I want to know. I don't know.
Many people are saying.
I don't know what amateurs mean, but if you mean that, like, we started it with a table with vinyl glued to big foam boards,
Yeah. Yep.
and then a
Yep.
year later we stuck a bunch of office desks to each other and bolted them together with like black paneling on the wall. And now we're to the point where we're in an actual studio with cameras on the wall, but we're still just using what are we using? Stream Deck instead of TriCasters.
OBS.
I mean, yeah. If you go to a studio like Crowder's, they have TriCasters. They have these
cool.
big things, these crazy rigs, and we just have cameras mounted to the walls. Yeah. It's better though. It's getting there. We're building a new studio, so definitely getting better.
We're going up.
But I got to be honest. If we're amateurs, it's fine. I guess the company's working and growing, so you got to start somewhere.
If you look at the professional media industry, they talk off of like prompters and stuff. That's not the aim with this. This is like a casual, chill show. I don't know. It's Tim's show. It's not my show, but it's our show.
It's better.
It's the show.
It's better.
Look, I've done a lot of cable news, and trying to distill your talking point into a 30-second soundbite sucks.
Yeah.
It really does.
With no opportunity to clarify, because they'll be like, we are running out of time, and they play the music or whatever.
Yeah.
So here it's like, oh, did you mean this? Oh, yeah, what I meant to say was you can actually, flesh out your ideas. All right. Howard says, the number one rule in Fight Club number one rule in parallel communities, no fight, laugh at them, drive them crazy, refers to mass formation psychosis. They hate it when you laugh, love, and laugh, never engage, just laugh, live your parallel life, and laugh. All right, Howard, I appreciate it. That was hard to understand, but I think what he's saying is ignore the haters and just laugh and keep on going, and they'll get really angry about it.
I respect it.
Yeah.
That's right. Integrity Media says, Tim, I wonder if people reported Twitter with each state's elections division for not reporting the like-kind contributions to Dems they favor when banning the GOP opponent. Failing to report is an elections crime.
And the New York Post.
Yep.
Yeah.
People should pursue it however they can pursue it, I suppose. I don't know. Or we just keep building the parallel systems. Daily Wire, they're doing absolutely incredible with their culture, and Dan Bongino has invested a lot in these parallel systems. Dave Rubin as well with Locals. We've had our criticisms of Locals, but it's a net positive across the board. Something to compete with Patreon. I like it.
Yeah, it's Rumble, and it's all about servers and decentralized servers.
Locals should be off Stripe and should be on Parallel Economy.
Yeah, agreed.
Done.
100%.
Parallel Economy. You guys should check it out. It's new, but it's good stuff. Hopefully it ends up working out. All right. Chuck Hawk says, keep up the good work, Tim and crew. Support independent country music. Download No Vaccinations and other outlaw tracks free on Bandcamp tonight. I like Vaccernation. It's something different. It means totally, yeah. All right. Howard says, Antifa money comes through the Ukraine laundry service along with child trafficking, drugs, biolabs. So Elite's ATM is messed up right now. And there are, let's just use the word euphemism, child abusers. The U.S. oligarchs Clinton, Obama, Mitt Romney, Biden, Pal, and Cam, so many others, and CIA, Bush, Antifa money is not coming. The elites are worried. Howard, I completely disagree. I don't think they need Ukraine for that. And I think the issue is more Epstein. If you're talking about corruption from powerful elites and money funneling and stuff, Epstein is the first place I'd look. Epstein Island, whatever it is they were doing, and the Panama Papers.
Yeah.
I think Ukraine's actually a bit more simple. The U.S. was trying to gain influence to control the flow of energy into Europe, which screws with Russia because that's like one of their principal exports. So Joe Biden, knowing this is the official position of the United States, sends in his son so that the son can wet the whistle of the big guy for 10%, share bank accounts. It's actually a bit more simple, and all of that's actually corroborated.
Yeah, check out Kolomoisky if you want to look at the Ukrainian ties to this stuff too, the corruption stuff.
But I'd love to, know anything about Epstein Island.
Oh, yeah, and how nice that the judge just denied a retrial for Ghislaine
Yeah.
Maxwell, and she's never had to name the conspirators, the people who actually paid for the services that they were providing.
It's like arresting a drug dealer because the cops saw him like hold a bag of drugs and raise it up and then like hand it to nobody and it falls on the ground. And they're like, get him. And they're like, you were dealing drugs to no one. But still, clearly there has to be another party involved.
Yeah.
Like at the very least a cop, right?
Yeah.
Like he was selling
Yeah.
drugs to a cop and then you're like, oh, he was giving it to an undercover officer. Nope. Maxwell, it's just like you were trafficking kids to no one. How do you prove she did it without confirming that she did it? It's
Right.
because they're protecting whoever she did it with.
Yep.
Man, oh man. All right. K Comco says we need a Churchill speech for a call to action to states re-term limits, fire and term limit every admin branch person, put an end once and for all to Putin, etc. Make a graceful exit in 4 years. Term limits are a tough question. Because some people have just said you can vote for who you want to vote for. It doesn't matter how long they're in there. And if you have term limits, what ends up happening is oligarchs will just rotate out politicians, and it's actually fairly easier for them to do so.
Yep.
He was pointing out term limits for the administrative state as well. It sounded
Yeah.
like that's
Oh,
a good
yeah,
idea.
the staffers. You shouldn't be allowed to be a staffer for more than a certain amount of years. All right. Dennis McGriff says, Ian, by your logic, does that make every president a cult leader?
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, all right then. Mike Sullivan says, Lydia, it's a 9mm carbine.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Pine Tree Squad says, Tim, great example of adjacent states with permitless constitutional carry is ME, NH, and VT. Can drive from Maine all the way through Vermont without being required to show your papers. Isn't that funny? They make you show your papers. Yeah, man. I've told this story before. A guy was driving from California to New York and got pulled over in Illinois, and they were like, you're going to jail for 4 years because he had guns. Now he's an Illinois resident. Congratulations. All right, now back to that story about the dad in Texas. We got some super chats. Shotgun Rebel says dad had no authority to enforce the order. Has to let police and law handle it. Best interest of the child. That way, and that is what Texas does in custody issues. I agree with that.
Yeah, I do
The
too.
dad should have immediately just backed off.
Yeah.
It's
Call
tough,
cops.
man. I understand why he was mad, though, but he would have won, and he would have won substantially if he backed off.
Yeah.
Imagine the cops showing up, and he's like, they're withholding my kid, and the guy came out with a gun. The cops would be like, whoa. Then when he goes to court, Your Honor, they wouldn't give the child to me as I was following your instructions, and then the guy comes out on his porch with a gun. The judge would be like, that's not safe for these kids.
Yeah.
Instead, he ends up losing his life. It's tough, man.
Yeah.
Taylor Cook says, you missed it. He tried to take the gun on the porch. The potential warning shot was the only real red flag here. I'm not sure the first shot wasn't an ND into the ground. The father was trespassing. It's tough. Yep. Josh Branson says it's tough, but the father should have left, called the police, and called it a kidnapping. So much as I hate it to, the BF defended himself.
If the kid was in like plain sight and was in danger, that's another story. Then the guy has to fight for the life of the child. But if he's not in plain danger, yeah, you're right.
He also didn't even know for sure if the kid was there, I believe, because didn't the mom say, "We're not telling you where he is"?
Yeah. Voro says, Tim, you missed the part where he says, "You better shoot or I'm going to take that gun and effing murder you," or something like that. Granted, he never tried to actually take the gun, but still, there was a verbal threat. Yeah, yep. I think that's important to point out. Yeah, absolutely.
That sucks.
Man, some other people are pushing back, though. Let's see. Ryan says, Texas custody law says if the primary conservator doesn't release a child as per the custody agreement, the police will not intervene as it's a civil matter, not criminal. You must file a complaint. Oh, now it gets even more crazy because what's a dad supposed to do then? Just let her kidnap the kid? Yikes. Seriously, JK says, Tim, the guy was already outside, then went back into the house and came back out. He was already part of the situation. Oh, wow.
This is very complicated.
Yeah, it is.
Jeez.
YouTuber says there are two videos of the Texas incident, one from the perspective of a woman in the house and another from the woman in the car. Watch both and you'll see it was not self-defense. It was murder. If the dude walked inside and grabbed a gun and walked out, that's a different question.
Because then he would know the context of the situation, right?
And he knew that the dad wasn't threatening them with violence. So for him to go and grab a gun when the dad was just like, "I'll see you in court," at that point, I would actually argue the boyfriend should have called the police. He should have went in the house, called the cops, and said, "He's getting belligerent. We just want someone to come and deal with it." Instead, he went out with a gun. That's tough.
Yeah, but then
You're
I mean,
on someone else's property.
And just the act of getting a gun isn't an escalation necessarily. I mean, we learned this in the Rittenhouse self-defense case. Him being out there with a firearm was not a provocation for people to attack him and try to take his weapon.
Yeah. All right. Channel Zero says, "Hey, Tim, you guys still coming up to Pork Fest in June in New Hampshire? My friend and I run a conspiracy theory debating podcast, Channel Zero, Rumble, Spotify. Emailed pitches, would love to join IRL when here. We are planning it. However, we tried in January to get modifications to the mobile studio for independent power. So solar panels, batteries that can run everything, and that completely fell through and our money is being jammed up. So we need to find someone who can do RV modification, and it's been really annoying. We're going to Nashville in a week.
Yeah.
That's easy because the Daily Wire is just going to run cables to our mobile studio, and we're going to be able to, do the show from our new mobile studio. It's a better setup with no issues. And then hopefully by the time we get to June, we'll have sorted out the batteries and everything so that we can run the show. But it's tough. Maybe we'll figure it out. We're also going to need satellite. So I don't know. Porkfest is tough because internet infrastructure. Luke was mentioning if we got like Starlink or something, but I'm not entirely confident. Entirely confident. Jacob Perez, in reference to this plastic surgery segment, says, "Gorgeous Squidward meme." Yep.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever watch Teen Titans Go at all?
No.
Never seen it? Have you seen the one where Robin takes off his mask?
No.
So it's
Sorry.
like, so Teen Titans. I watched the show anyway. I used to watch the original Teen Titans. Teen Titans Go is just like a kids show, but I did see the one episode. I've seen a handful of them where Robin always wears a mask and he never takes it off. So the other Teen Titans are like, "Take off the mask, show us what you look like," and he's like, "No, I can't." And then finally, like they keep trying to take it off, but whenever they take it off, there's another mask underneath. Finally, he agrees to take it off, and he has this ridiculous looking face like the Squidward meme. And then they're all like shocked because they think he's insanely beautiful or something. I don't know. It's funny. All right. Angie says, Rekieta Law said that the police would not have helped the man that was shot on the porch. They would have told him to take it up with the courts, which is what he said he was going to do. Sad story, man. The bipolar god of science fiction says, "Is it violently offensive that I've been tripping balls for the last 5 hours laughing at Madonna's video? Maybe people will try to cancel me, but those same people are probably already trolling her in the comments over there. Should serve as a cautionary tale."
It's pretty trippy.
Is it violently offensive? Not to me. I don't care.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's not possible for you to be offensive. It's only really possible for me to be offended by what you do. It's up to the receiver to decide if they're offended or not. You can try and offend, but you can't decide if it's offensive or not.
Ryan Brown says, I am starting to think PayPal is deliberately attacking Timcast.com with their more frequent issues, keeping subscribers from accessing member content. I won't put the blame on PayPal. There is an issue that affected us based on our... Look, we were called amateurs earlier. Fair point. Yeah. When we launched the website, it was just like a very basic WordPress because I was like, I don't want to be on Patreon or these other platforms, so we'll make our own thing. And there was this simple issue that basically resulted in something happening after 1 year for members where it disconnects your account from timcast.com and then we need to reconnect it for some reason. I don't know. But we are setting up a new, more resilient system that once is fully operational, then, I'll have a more exciting announcement. I think people can probably already figure out what I'm talking about, but let's just say we're upgrading to a new provider, and I don't blame PayPal for it, but we do want to diversify who we use for memberships. If you're having issues, send an email to members@timcast.com, and we'll get you sorted to the best of our abilities. I just want to be honest with everybody. I really do apologize because we have so many members and we're trying to grow and we need to add more people. So it gets tough to answer all the emails we get from everybody just for everything. All right. What is that? Dorktanian. Parental kidnapping is a felony in Texas. Caruth was assisting in the crime and would fall under Texas felony murder rule if charged. Wow. That's crazy. All right, here we go. Someone's got a science answer for us. Michael Conaway says the North Star, Polaris, is almost directly above the Earth's axis. It also states the North Celestial Pole is restless, and over 26,000 years will describe a 47-degree arc through the sky. Will descend? Will describe?
Interesting.
Interesting. Part-time Doge says Stu Peters just swatted. I don't know who Stu Peters
is. That is. I'm curious now.
R.L. Corley says, hey, hi, Tim. Are you going to go see Sonic the Hedgehog 2? You betcha. I went and saw Morbius. Boy, was that bad.
What's Morbius?
Morbius is a character from Spider-Man who is like, he's Dr. Michael Morbius and he's dying. So he does an experimental thing with bats and then becomes a vampire.
I'm on the Jim Carrey train right now.
Carrey.
Isn't Jim Carrey in Sonic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Morbius was Jared Leto.
No, I've just moved on from Morbius after that. I'm into Sonic 2 now. Jim Carrey, man, when I saw him respond to the Will Smith slap on stage or the Will Smith attack, that was the best.
It's the best thing he's done in years.
Yeah,
Jim Carrey, man.
Pretty tedious.
His art sucks.
Yeah, a little bit.
He had like a something change, like a, what would you call it? Like a spiritual awakening or like a midlife crisis or something in 2010.
This is important.
Stopped being funny after that.
Yeah.
But he's way more interesting now.
Many such cases.
Yeah.
Alex Jones was right. 420 says, Tim, have you seen Amazon is creating a Fallout TV show? Please no.
Damn.
It's going to be so broken and weirdly
So
well.
bad.
I hope they use
they
ammo
kinda-
as currency and not bottle caps.
They already
Come
kind of
on.
screwed up Witcher, so
Yeah.
like let's not.
Netflix?
Yeah.
I heard Wheel of Time was woke. People were mad. I don't know though. I don't know anything about Wheel of Time.
The Assassin's Creed movie was really bad too, and the Uncharted movie looks terrible. It's like
Yeah, I hear it's bad.
Very-
Morbius was bad.
very rarely are video games turned into other forms of
Yeah, because you
multimedia
can't play
content.
them. You got to
Right.
watch. That's like
You know
you're doing
what I
it
know?
backwards, guys.
And these campaigns take like what 10 to 30 hours, and then you try to condense it into a 2-hour movie.
What I don't understand about Morbius, or I'm sorry, I mean Sony movies, when they try to do Marvel characters, is why they don't just look at what a Marvel movie is and then just copy them. Like these movies, they all feel very much like it's 2003, and they're just really bad. Remember Daredevil with Ben Affleck?
I didn't see it.
Me neither.
Oh, come on.
I saw
guys.
Spider-Man 1 with Tobey Maguire, and then I saw Iron Man 1, and I was like, I'm not watching it anymore. It's trash. It's just trash.
All right, Ian. If you haven't already,
Disney.
smash that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel. Share the show with your friends if you really like it. We are going to record our members only segment, which will be up at timcast.com. We'll post it around 11 or so p.m. So make sure you sign up there if you want to support our work. You can subscribe. Make sure to subscribe to this channel. Make sure you follow us at Timcast IRL, basically everywhere except TikTok because we got banned. And you can follow me at Timcast, basically everywhere else. Amber, do you want to shout anything out?
I would love to. You can follow me at Amber_Athey on Twitter, and I already shared the discount code for Spectator, but it's Amber for 10% off a subscription. Just go to thespectatorworld.com.
Did you shout out your Twitter too?
I did.
All right. And I also wanted just to clarify, I know those movies sucked. I'm not just going to complain. I'm actually making good art as a result. I've been working on scripts. We're also putting together social media technology so you can ideally have subscribers that can follow you without a middleman taking a % of your stuff. So actively solving some of these problems that I'm finding in society, and I will see you later.
And you guys may follow me on Twitter at sourpatchlids and on minds.com as well. I also have sourpatchlids.me.
We will see all of you over at timcast.com. Thanks for hanging out.
Bye, guys.